now entering the Bass Galaxy.
This is Teal's Bass Galaxy. I'm your host. This podcast is about raw, real conversations with real awesome people about bass fishing, bass boats, and heck, there are no limits in the galaxy. Attention all Bastronauts. This podcast is supported by the Bass Galaxy's title sponsor, Waypoint Angler Supply, the Midwest's new landing pad for hardcore anglers just like you and me. If you're looking for the sneaky goods you can't find anywhere else, look no further. Waypoint Angler Supply has the largest offering of JDM tackle in the Midwest, and they are right here in Minnesota on Lake Minnetonka. This is truly a place every bass fisherman in Minnesota needs to visit because we finally have a tackle shop in the state that's as dreamy as the ones you find down south. And the staff at Waypoint Angler Supply understands the various needs of us anglers, which is why you'll find the selection there so enticing. Ross and the folks at Waypoint Angler Supply are passionate about carrying the right stuff, providing an authentic customer experience, and they listen to the anglers. And it doesn't end at JDM baits. They stock all the top U.S. brands, as well as local Minnesota brands like Veselka Fishing and Customs, Arsenal Fishing, Bait Lab Custom Swim Baits, All Terrain Tackle, Bagley Northland, Outcast Tackle, and more. So stop into their store on Lake Minnetonka or visit their website, waypointanglersupply.com. That's waypointanglersupply.com. Use the code GALAXY20 to save 20% on your next tackle binge. All right, kids, listen up. Today's guests, we got two legends in the house. One of these guys, he's a legend to me. He's a mentor of mine. He taught me how to bass fish. Dean Nalezny is joining us as a co-host for this one because he fished out of the back of this guy's boat. And if you haven't heard of this guy, man, you need to listen up because this guy is a bass fishing legend, a pioneer in the state of Minnesota. He is the largemouth bass state record holder in the state of Minnesota. He's invented the My-Wedge Transom Saver. He's won more boats than Davy Crockett. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Raveling. Because you seem to be out of the tournament game a little bit.
Yeah, no, I kind of pick and choose, and with the COVID stuff, I kind of gave up with the majority of the stuff, and well, everybody, I guess, kind of got put in the backlog, and you know, I'm not that mad at them anymore, and I just want to go out when the weather's nice and they're biting, and just enjoy myself.
Absolutely.
And the same way with Texas. I mean, I go out and fish bass. But I'm really getting into the redfish thing on the Gulf.
Okay.
And boy, what a treat that is.
Sure.
I've been doing it now like 3 years, and it's like catching a 20-pound smallmouth on top water in 3 feet of water.
That's fun.
Yeah. No, it's just amazing.
So you got your own like saltwater boat then? Or?
Nope. I've been going with a guide, and
Sure.
And he just started building boats, so I think I'm going to get one that he's building.
Sure.
And I've been in his prototype for like the last 3 years, and it's unbelievable. And I could actually probably get rid of my bass boat and just use that,
Sure.
you know, to fish all the species out of that. So
Is that like a center console, like flats, fiberglass style boat then?
it is. Yeah,
Cool.
it's a tunnel, and it goes. You know, you can get on plane in like 8 inches of water, and you can go through. You know, that real shallow water.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but it also handles big waves. It's got a big, deep V on the front of it, so
Sure.
it's what I'd say almost a perfect boat.
Well, saltwater is kind of like the testing ground for a shallow water or a rough water boat. So if it does both, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. Looking forward to getting down there again already. I'm packing for Texas already. So
That's awesome. So you spend most of your winters down by Falcon Lake there. When do you typically leave?
well, I leave the middle of October and come back the end of April. So I miss all the cold weather, and my grandkids come down, and Rachel comes down quite a bit, and Ryan even came down this year, my youngest boy.
Sure.
Shane hasn't made it yet, but he will. He's too busy with his 3 girls he's got, and they're all in volleyball right now. He takes them all over the country, and
crazy.
does these tournaments and stuff. And Hayden just came in second, I think, in one of the from a national standpoint.
Sure.
So they're all doing really good. They enjoy it, and he's taking care of them. And Mason's on his own kind of now.
Yeah.
Him and Carter paired up.
Yep.
And they've done really, really good the last couple of years.
They have. They're a good team. They've become a nice thorn in my side, so to speak. Yeah. No, but they're
In
great
everybody's
dudes.
side, I think.
Oh yeah, for sure. But it's cool to see, and they're always respectful on the water too, which is nice.
Yeah. That's kind of what we tried to teach them.
For sure. Sure.
Well,
how many years have you been doing this on the water? When was your first fishing tournament, Mark? Because I mean, there's a lot of people maybe nowadays that don't know who Mark Raveling is, but I'm here to tell you, like, I barely know who Mark Raveling is, but I grew up looking up to you, so I really appreciate you coming out, and I guess I'm excited to learn about and hear about some of those old stories, because I think I don't want them to get lost with time. There's no Facebook proof of them, so to speak.
Exactly.
So this is us stamping that down. But yeah, walk me through like your first tournament and how'd you get into bass fishing? Like Shane obviously had Mark, Mason had Shane, but did you have a kind of guy who brought you into it, or did you get into it yourself?
Exactly. I got into bass fishing late. I always enjoyed fishing, but it was primarily sitting in the channel on Minnetonka, throwing a big sucker minnow out, waiting for a northern to bite it.
Sure.
So that was my fishing.
Yep.
And this was, I didn't really get going until I was probably 30 years old with the bass.
Sure.
And I had a friend that was doing it. He had a bass boat. And he said, well, let's go out sometime. And I said, sure. So I had an ultralight spinning rod and reel combo with like 6-pound test on it. And I had this Storm thin fin, kicked his ass. On Minnetonka, we went out. I bet you I caught 25 bass, and he hardly caught anything. And that was the start of it.
Sure.
I got hooked right then. We went on. We fished together. Him and I fished together a couple times, and it was like maybe 2 years we won the Minnetonka Bass Classic. Him and I did together.
Sure.
And then Shane and I kind of took over after that. And
well, like how many? So you had the Minnetonka Bass Classic. Do you know what year this was around? Because how many tournaments were there at this time? Was the bass fishing wasn't really like tournament bass fishing wasn't really much of a thing back then, or was it?
Yeah, well, there was a couple circuits,
Sure.
and I don't even know the name of them anymore. But the Minnetonka Bass Classic was the one that was everybody wanted to win.
Yeah.
So would that have been like before the Shelbys even?
Yeah.
It would have been.
Yep. Yeah. So I think Shane and I probably won more Minnetonka Bass Classics than anybody. We dominated basically Minnetonka for like 10, 12 years, if not more.
Well, I'd be curious on the whole state statistic, honestly,
Yeah,
Mark.
yeah.
I think Minnetonka is really what you guys are well known for, but to me, it goes beyond that. You've done very well.
Yeah, every place we've gone, we've been competitive.
Absolutely.
And it's all, putting the time in on it. We didn't have spot lock and GPS back there, and we had to use maps, and line up a tree on a window on a shoreline that was 300 yards away, or figure out an inside turn, and that's it's totally different now. And
Yeah.
and the grandkids are showing me how to use that stuff now. Not spot lock or GPS, but the active targets and that type
Kind
of
of come full circle in that sense.
Wow, sure has.
It's crazy. It's crazy. And to me, so like back in the day, you didn't have active target 2, right? So you had to use maps, and ultimately, I think
Sonar.
I've talked to sonar, and I've talked to now like Moina, who's really well known for a football jig, right? That was essentially a casting sonar back then for bottom hardness. So like being efficient, you couldn't side image something. You couldn't go scan this grass edge. You had to zigzag it with sonar if you had it. But what I think is cool about what you're kind of well known for is, to me, it's something very similar to Moina. You had to figure out a way to be efficient on the water with what you had. And what you seem to pioneer kind of and become very well known for is a crankbait, which to me is an efficiency tool kind of like a football jig, except I think a lot of people in Minnesota would say it's a painful bait to throw, which the football jig can be too. And maybe it was so painful because your arms were hurting. But like you said, the thin fin was kind of the originator to that. Yeah. And I think that's kind of funny because from everybody who's told me stories about Mark Raveling, it's a Wiggle Wart, Mag-Wart, and you really did well with that.
Yeah, and it, it was a bait that, was a superior bait for one thing. It made the right rattle, the right movement, and milfoil was just coming around, and the fish were actually hiding in the milfoil. But you could, what triggered them was the way we did it, and I remember Little, what's his first name?
George
Little, yeah.
Yep.
Him and I fished a tournament together once, and he goes, God, you're not fishing. He goes, you're in combat with those fish. He goes, because that's what it was. It was a ripping technique using that Mag-Wart, and it just triggered them. And the harder you did it, the more action you got. Bigger fish you caught, more of them, and it was just painful. We used to have big Band-Aids that were 9x9. We'd have them on our sides just because we were wearing and bruising because of the ripping we were doing. And it was, a lot had to do with the line we used, a lot had to do with the rods we used, and it was just grunt work is what it was.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of work.
Do you have any of the original Wiggle Warts yet?
Yeah.
You do.
Yeah.
I figured that. A lot?
Yeah.
You have a lot
of them. I've heard stories about
That's what I was
got
getting. I was hoping that he'd tidbit a little bit.
Well, when Rapala went to their new edition, Shane and I bought everyone they had.
Okay. I was just curious.
And so we have a few left.
Okay.
He asked if he needed to bring anything the first time.
Well,
said,
no,
you could bring some of them OG Wiggle Warts or Mag-Warts if you want. He's like, I gave him all the Mason. Like, no.
I think I've got like a half a dozen that they're not even in my boat. They're just there.
Yeah, and I very seldom ever throw them anymore, and it's changed, and especially I'm not doing the tournament thing that much anymore. But they worked almost every lake he went to, and I can remember Ron Linder watching me on Gull Lake. He was filming, actually, and he was talking about how this is this is a different technique that Mark's done, and I was ripping right in front of him, and all of a sudden we caught a 4-pounder, and it's, it worked at almost every place we went, whitefish, gull.
How did the discovery of that happen, and how were you fishing maybe before that, right? And obviously it was this key that really unlocked a lot of things for you, but
Boy, I don't know. I guess I don't remember how it all came about. You know, it was, it was a good bait. It made the right noise. That was really the key thing. And
Sure.
we probably started with the smaller one, reeling it over top the weeds, and just the milfoil kind of forced us to start ripping it.
Sure.
And we went to that mag one, and that made more noise yet. And it just triggers fish, and it was one color that did it too. It was that reddish,
Like a crayfish.
crayfish red, yeah.
Yeah.
And,
Fire crawl, like blaze orange kind of.
Yeah. No, it was really deep red, and it triggered them.
Yep.
But how we got started, I'm guessing that we were throwing it, and I don't remember if we caught a fish on something and we were letting it lay, and all of a sudden another one came up and got it. So right there we knew it was a hot bait.
Right.
And we just kept practicing with it and practicing. And the only way you could get it through to the fish was to rip it.
Sure.
And that just evolved over a period of time.
Well, yeah, that's a problem. You probably had to work with different line and different rods to kind of figure out the best way to do that. Was that the first crankbait you threw, or was there a different crankbait that you maybe threw before that? I mean,
no, we've thrown many Bagleys, a lot of the Rapala shad wraps, or shad deep downs, and all those. I mean, we did them all, but and they catch fish. There's no question. It's just the Wiggle Wart is the one that really made Shane and I our names made countrywide.
right.
I mean, we had people in Florida talking about what we were doing up here in Minnesota.
It was special. Man.
Yeah.
It was special. So what was the rods have changed a lot. Line has changed a lot. I mean, did they even have fluorocarbon back then? Because now everybody's using straight fluorocarbon, and rods have evolved a lot as well. But was it a fiberglass rod? Was it a graphite rod? Did you use heavier line mono or lighter mono?
Well, it was all mono. There
Right.
was no braid in there.
No braid even.
No.
No
Jesus.
braid and no fluorocarbon. And it was Maxima line, the Camellia, 10 pound.
10 pound.
10 pound. And we still throw that, and it's some of the most magnificent line ever made.
Sure.
And it was you could reel in a car with it. I think
Huh.
it would just never break. And
So it is like Power Pro. It's like 30-pound test, 10-pound test diameter is what you're saying.
yeah.
Well, I remember Gamma. I remember seeing it. Wasn't it
Well, Maxima.
Maxima? It was in a black box with gold lettering, if I remember.
Yeah,
I think something like
I
that.
think so. Yeah, but it's a brownish color.
Yeah, it's like you said, chameleon color,
Yeah,
whatever
yeah.
they called it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, what's interesting about that is the mono kind of is stretchy,
Stretch.
right?
Yep.
But if you go thin enough, a thin is like a knife, right?
It ripped the
It
weeds.
cuts through the weeds better. I've noticed that where you'd think you'd go heavier line, but actually lighter line rips that grass
Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
Is that?
That's-
Because most guys would be scared to break their bait off with 10-pound tests ripping it through the grass.
I would
that.
be.
I would be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was all trial and error, and we knew we had a successful pieces to everything.
Yeah.
The line, the rod, we actually had a rod. Loomis actually built us a rod. I think it was a 784 or something like that. It was a real stiff rod, and that gave us leverage to rip that and break those weeds off and stuff.
So you throw a stiffer rod, but
Yeah.
more moderate, like a heavy moderate, or
Yeah, it was pretty heavy.
yeah. Gotcha. Jig rod.
Well, not quite that heavy,
Gotcha.
but close. It was short, so you could, there was no real give to it. So when you ripped it, it actually saw the weeds off.
Yeah, that's cool. I've heard about that with the chatterbait too, with using certain lines to get it to run down in that grass better and rip out. So that's just super interesting. That's super cool stuff. And like back then, it was you had a key to the lake that no one else had, and you ran with it.
Yeah.
How many tournaments do you think that bait has won, or dollar amount? I mean,
I have no idea. A lot. You know, we've
Like,
got a lot of.
how many boats have you won, Mark? Like,
Ooh, I bet you 10, 12, 15.
isn't that crazy?
Yeah, 'cause
I've
I
won so
remember-
many boats, I've lost count.
Well,
That's a dream, man.
Well, they
that
used
is
to-
a dream.
you guys didn't you guys I had like 5 or 6 years in a row you guys won
Yeah.
a boat. I mean,
Yeah.
it was if I remember right. You know, because I know who you were. You know, I'm
Well, it wasn't only on Minnetonka.
no,
either.
it was all over.
It was on Chicago with
Chicago chain,
Frankie's tournaments.
deals. Yep.
And Prior Lake, I can remember winning boats there. And
He's like that guy from the Griswolds. I put $1 in, I win a boat. I put $1 in, I win another boat. I put $1 in, I win another boat. That's what I mean.
yeah,
it's
if there was a boat as an award, we would win it. It seemed like that was the deal.
that's cool, man.
Yeah, and that's how they paid us back then, though, too. I mean, it was, some cash, but it was mostly a boat, motor type thing,
That's so
which
cool.
is fine.
Absolutely. They don't. I mean, there's only one tournament series I'm aware of nowadays up here that still does that. It sounds like it used to be a lot more common, which is interesting because the sport seemed to be a lot smaller.
Yeah, it was just beginning to take off, though, and
Right.
and that was Irwin Jacobs and the
Silverado.
Silverados,
Yep.
the Don Shelby Invitationals. That's what it was the start to the FLW.
Yep.
And we got in on the ground floor 3 or 4 years and perfected all that. And they gave us boats.
Sure.
And it wasn't like one boat for the win. They'd give us boats to 5th place.
Right. I remember that. That's wild to me.
Yeah.
So, I mean, tournaments have changed a lot over time. Like, kind of. The rules are generally the same besides the ones they've added over time. But what's interesting to me is there wasn't a lot of smallmouth back in the day. And you probably really maybe got to witness 0 to smallmouth. When was the first smallmouth weighed in a tournament that you saw?
Well,
you know?
Minnetonka always had some. And
Sure.
when they were on the beds, I remember like Gary Lake and a few of those guys.
Was it Bowling and Gary Lake? I think, right? If I remember right.
Yeah, and they would go fish those smallmouth, and they'd bring in nice ones. I mean,
This was in the 80s or 70s? Or?
It was when I was that would have been out of high school. That's when I really start kind of peeking at these guys and following what I could. You know, back then there wasn't what we had now.
Sure.
You know, but Gary Lake, Bowleg, Raveling, Capra. I mean, all those guys.
they
But
were
like
around.
Yeah.
Pioneers, man.
But like the smallies, they didn't. But remember, there was no social media, so nobody knew about them.
No small. Well, okay. It's like that. It's like that bear in the forest making a sound analogy. Okay, so if a smallmouth swims in the lake and no one's there to post it on Facebook, is it there?
Yep.
Like,
Well, it's really taken off the smallmouth,
crazy,
and I remember fishing tournaments on Mille Lacs where all you could catch was largemouth. I think you could bring one smallmouth in that was over 22 inches
Yeah, it
or
was had to
something.
be one big one.
yeah, yeah.
And it was catch and release always on smallmouth up there, and that's why Mille Lacs is what it is today. Or it's kind of gone downhill a little bit, but it was one of the best lakes in the country for a long time. And Leech is right behind it. Woman, that was catch and release for a long time, and there's giants in there.
Oh, that to me, I think Woman has the biggest smallmouth genetics that I've seen in the state.
Yeah.
The
2 weeks
tails
ago,
on them are
Yeah.
like my wrists.
Two
My
weeks-
wrists aren't huge, but
2 weeks ago there was a guy fishing walleyes out there, and he caught a 715 again.
715.
Yeah, and I saw a picture of it, and I mean, my God.
Yeah, because what 8 pounds
8-0.
0
Yep.
is the record.
And there's been 3 or 4 of them now that are 715.
Janice that caught one. Aaron not caught one. You probably caught one.
No, I haven't.
I actually got one on my phone from my cousin who I work for. His buddy's brother-in-law, his neighbor, was a 714 2 summers ago.
Yeah.
Why no one weighed the 8? Like
It's got to be there.
it's coming.
It's
like
gotta
if
be
it's
there.
not 7, like it's got to be 8 next year.
No.
Right?
Yeah,
And that was 3 years ago. I think I saw a 715.
Well,
get weighed.
Janisix, that's got to be 5-6 years. That's a ways out.
Yeah.
Right? Right.
So think of that.
Well, I've been trying.
Oh, well, that'd be really cool if he had the green and
Both of
brown
them?
record. Yeah. So for on the record, you are the Minnesota largemouth bass state record holder,
Yeah.
which, I mean, that's an honor in and of itself. But that'd be cool to catch both.
Yeah, I've been trying. That's, you know.
Is that kind of your mission now that you're not fishing tournaments?
Well, you know,
Is
it's really was my mission.
get the green and brown belt.
Yeah,
You know?
a lot earlier. I mean, when I moved up to Leech Lake, which was 12 years ago, that was in the back of my mind,
Sure.
is to try to catch that green one or that smallmouth and have 2 records. But you know,
Stars.
what's
gotta
the
align.
odds? You know.
Stars got to align.
Yeah.
So you've been spending some time on Leech though.
Yeah, not a lot. It's you know, if I go, I go to Little Boy and I go to Woman more than I go to Leech. But
Yeah.
Leech is going to be another Mille Lacs here in a couple of years.
I think so too.
Yeah, for smallmouth, and it's got everything right, and it's further away from the cities,
Right.
so it won't get near as much pressure, I don't think, as what Mille Lacs gets.
I would agree with that. And that'd be good to see. I think that lake can definitely handle. I think that lake is more built for smallmouth than it is for largemouth.
No
almost.
question.
Yeah. So
Oh, it's a fishery.
I'm excited to see that continue to take off and evolve. It's interesting that they started letting us weigh them in tournaments. Like, it's interesting how, and it's kind of a blessing and a curse, right? Because I want those lakes to keep going on, but it's like Green Lake and Spicer, like the catch and release thing's what made that lake what it was, and then you open it up to tournaments and maybe a few other things, and
Yeah,
now you see what we have today.
you know, and I noticed that on Woman Lake too. It's when I started up there, I mean, it was a lot better than what it is now. It's still a fantastic fishery, but you know, you put tournaments and pre-fish and all that stuff, you're going to kill some fish and you're going to move some, you're going to take them off the beds and you're going to ruin the bed, you know. So it's just the way life is, I guess.
Right.
But another really phenomenal fishery is Green Bay, Sturgeon Bay, and that's
Unbelievable.
it is an unbelievable fishery, and I kind of got away from that now too, just because of the COVID and well, I can catch them in Leech and Woman. Why do I want to drive 8 hours?
It's a long ways.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So I've been sticking more at home, and
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. Like, I felt like I was a really good smallmouth fisherman, and then I went to Sturgeon Bay, and I realized, like, it seems like those, and then you start to see that. It was like I saw that on Sturgeon Bay, and then you kind of start to see it more on our lakes now that they're getting more pressure, and so is like all those fish are probably still in there. That them smallmouth, they just, I think, get conditioned, you know, and pressure does affect them.
Yep.
But I want to get back to the Wiggle Wart thing a little bit because, sorry, ADD, this will happen, Mark. But so Wiggle Wart, did you develop so much confidence in that technique that it almost became a double-edged sword where, like, you know what I mean? Like, where you have that lure that is just, you've won so much money off of boats, and it is that tool that you almost keep in your hand too long. Like, I asked you how many tournaments you won on it, but how many tournaments, I guess, out of my own curiosity, have you died on it, so to speak?
well, I can't think of any really.
So you change. You'll change it up if it ain't working.
Yeah, but you know, that Wiggle Wart was. We could go. We would not care if somebody was fishing a spot. we'd go behind them and we'd catch them
Right.
with that Wiggle Wart.
They weren't because they weren't doing that.
They weren't doing that, but we didn't care. I mean,
Even if they were trying to do it, they weren't doing that.
yeah. And I can remember one tournament, and we had big tournaments on Minnetonka, like 120 boats. And I know Shane and I were like boat 118 one time going out. And it was a big tournament, you know. Well, we won it, and we could go behind anybody. We actually were catching 3.5 pounders, and we called the boat over saying, "There's 3.5 pounders here. We gotta go find 4 pounders."
That's nice of you.
and they went in to catch them, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we won that tournament.
That's
you know.
crazy.
Yeah. I mean, it's phenomenal what that bait did. I mean, you could catch 100 fish a day.
Why doesn't it do that? Like, why doesn't that happen anymore? I guess. What do you think? You taught too many people how to do it, or?
I don't think many people are doing it actually. Out there now, it's more.
I don't throw a crankbait.
It's more coontail now, I think, than it's.
I don't think the
I've
weeds
been
are
on
like they
Minnetonka
were.
before and said, "I'm Mark Raveling." You know what I mean? I've tried to do it, but it's like you can't 3 and out with that thing. You got to keep it in your hand and really.
Yeah, and I mean, Shane and Mason still fish Minnetonka, not as much as we did, but off and on, they still have tournaments out there and stuff. And they're catching them more on Carolina rigs and jigworms and that type of thing than the wart. And I don't know if it's the weed set up.
Do you think
I know it's because the schools used to be a lot bigger.
See, that's what I was going to say. Do you think the schools and the weed combo is not like it used to be?
Exactly. Okay. I mean, we used to catch. We didn't have spot locks, so the boat would move.
Yeah.
Right.
But we'd catch 30 or 40 or 50 in one spot.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Well, them schools, I think now you have high school tournaments, guide fishing tournaments.
Yeah. Well, that's why I left Minnetonka.
Yeah.
I mean, there was just too many people there every day. I mean, I used to go out and used to see maybe 5-6 boats, and then toward the end of it, I thought nobody must work because everybody was out fishing all the time. I mean, there'd be the launches would be full at 8 o'clock.
Hey guys, Gaff with Waypoint Angler Supply here. Just wanted to highlight the fact that we have the big bass resource right here. Obviously, everybody in Minnesota knows about Kitex and the littler swim baits like these bait labs here, but we're here to have the big baits here in the store. We got Huddlestons, we've got the dangerous swim baits, the jointed claw glide baits, and the bull shooter glide baits. But it's not only the baits. We've got big rods, big reels, big line, and all that good stuff for you guys to go ahead and chase your biggest fish of your life. So swing on into Waypoint Angler Supply and get hooked up with the biggest tackle around.
This episode is brought to you by just north of Memphis Barbecue. This is World Champion Barbecue. If you smoke meat and you don't like good barbecue, I do not know what to tell you right now besides you need to try some of this stuff. They've got their rub. They've got their sauces right on their website. They've got their famous dry rub award-winning seasoning that you could put on ribs, brisket, pulled pork, chicken, wings, anything you like to put on the smoker, on the oven, on the grill. Any meat you like to cook, you need some of this dry rub seasoning in your life. But don't forget the sauce, because that's award-winning world champion sauce here. No matter what flavor you like, they've got 3 different sauces, and they are all good. You can drink them straight out the bottle. We've got Sweet Christie's for all you sweet-loving barbecue folk. We've got Christie's Mischief for all you spicy bass anglers out there. And then we've got Christie's Gold. And they'll sell all 3 of them in a combo. But you need to go to their website right now. It's jnomemphis.com. That's jnomemphis.com. Dry rub, sauce, barbecue. Let's go!
In the morning.
That's crazy.
So I finally said, there's no need there's no reason for me to stick around there anymore.
Right.
I came up to better water. So
Well, the milfoil is not the same with them spraying it, and you've got coontail that's really taken over, and I don't think you can rip a crank through coontail as well.
Yep.
You have to stay on top of that coontail more.
Yep.
There's nothing underneath it, so to speak, so you
Yep.
have to be on top of it. So that probably makes, you could probably still get that bite going, just maybe not as often.
Yeah.
And then them schools, I think, are there. It's just you've got Tom, Dick, Harry, John, and Joe.
Breaking them up all the
Everybody knows about them. The maps are better. The side imaging's better. The active target's there. Everybody knows where everything is.
Yep.
Now it's literally a game of how do you catch 4 or 5 instead of 1 or 2, and one of them's a big one.
Yeah.
Like, that's the game now. And if you really could, if the wind's right and there's clouds and weather coming in, like, you can still have that happen.
Yeah.
But it's not. It doesn't seem like it's as often, and I think it's because there's more of us trying to do more things, and them fish just getting. It's more like a southern fishery now.
Yeah. Well, Shane and I used to put the trolling motor down and just go. We'd work a weed line forever. We'd learn every little tip and every inside
that.
turn because we didn't have the maps, so we didn't have electronics to show us that. I used to work downtown Minneapolis for 18 years. And when Shane got old enough, and this was like 13, 14, I would drop him off at in the morning, go to work, come back in the evening and pick him up. He'd spend all day on Minnetonka fishing.
Man,
Yeah.
that is
what
the
a life,
most
huh?
dad move I've ever heard. Like, that's an all-star dad move right there. Wow.
Well, he, it was all him because he was so.
Well, he loved it.
Yeah.
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 Well, I'll be honest, Mark. I never got to fish against you really in your prime, but I will say to this day that your son Shane Raveling is probably the best fisherman that I've fished against, besides maybe Seth Fighter, and that's all a
He's
toss up. But all the respect in the world.
Yeah, no, he's a A1 fisherman. There's no doubt about it.
Well, that's to me what's really cool about, like, I feel like when I fish with good fishermen, I fish with Dean, I fish with guys like Nick Gross, guys like Tony Hatton, when you have to fish behind somebody who's really good, you have to figure out how to catch them. And my theory, or my thought process with Shane having to fish behind you, and now Shane's a big jig warmer, weird. You were throwing probably a crankbait up front and whooping them, and he wanted to maybe figure out something else that he could compliment you with so you could win more money and win more tournaments. Sure. He's got that dog in him. But, I mean, and it's probably turned into, it probably started with you teaching him things, and then he probably was able to teach you a lot of things too.
We actually grew up together learning how to bass fish.
That's so cool.
And there's no question he dominates his sport.
He's really good at it.
Yeah, no question. And he enjoys it, but he's got some young women that are into volleyball, and he takes them all over the country now, and to all these tournaments, and it's a full-time job doing that.
I wonder who's more competitive at those tournaments, him or them. But I bet that's, if they're spawn of him, they got that dog in them too.
Yeah, for sure.
Huh. That's so cool. And so that's kind of how it evolved then, was Shane and you fished, and then you would also fish Pro-Am stuff as well. So you two would fish as a team, and then you'd fish Pro-Ams?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, and the Shelbys, that was an individual competition, and it seemed like Shane and I were always in the top 5 after 2 days.
Yeah.
Well, we were using the same fish. I mean, we knew all the spots we could only catch so many pounds.
Sure.
And that's why we did really well. But we should have won it almost every time. If one guy would have been fishing it, it would have been lights out.
So
it would have been lights out.
Did you guys say, this is what we have and the best man wins, or did you guys work together and try to make that efficient?
No, we definitely worked together.
Yeah.
But I remember one Shelby tournament is I came into a spot that was supposed to be mine, And who was sitting there? Shane. And he had his bag full. So what do you do,
Right.
But,
Right.
That's what happens when you have, I'm sure Dean and Ted had the same situation,
Yeah, I remember Dean telling me a few stories about that, but it was like,
And Ted would pre-fish the day before and hit every spot just to make sure they were there.
that to me is a really cool kind of, you got, to me, the most probably famous bass fishing families in the state of Minnesota, besides the Linders maybe, from a TV standpoint, but from a tournament fishing standpoint, is the Ravelings and the Capras.
Yep.
And I know you guys kind of joined forces at one point, but there was always a little bit of rivalry between those
boy.
two families.
Big time, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was. And I could still remember one tournament that Shane and I were fishing right outside the Narrows and using the Wiggle Wart, and we were catching them. And Ted and Dean were idling through the channel there. And we were netting one or whatever, and another one, the bait was laying on top of the water, and one grabbed it, and so we had a double right there. And they were within like 15 feet of the whole thing. It was comical. It was hilarious. We just giggled about it.
So you guys had the wart, and that was like how long did it take before the Capras had the wart? Like, how long did you guys have it and the Capras didn't have it?
Well, there again, it was all on how you threw it.
Correct. So there was probably an in-between phase where they were doing it, but they weren't doing it right, maybe.
Well, I don't know if they ever did it right.
I got you. So that's something you guys kept under wrap.
Yeah. I mean, people would see us what we're doing, and it was hard to duplicate because it'd wear you out in no time.
Sure.
But did they know that you were throwing the Wiggle Wart?
Oh yeah,
They did.
oh for sure. Dean and Ted have as many Wiggle Warts as we do.
They owned a tackle shop. I bet they probably maybe even had
Yeah.
more, but they probably weren't the right ones.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure they
were.
had the right ones.
So that was a rivalry then.
Yeah.
Was there any, when did that join forces, or when did you guys, how long were you guys kind of going at it before you're like, hey, if we just start
Share
talking
information or-
we could just probably all win.
Yeah, well, we became really good friends
Sure.
over the years, and we said, well, why not just team up and we'll split the money, and we'll do our thing and kind of tell you what we're doing. We won't share spots or anything, and they did the same thing, and but it was always hard to win a boat and give it half of it to Dean and Ted.
That is hard to do. Yeah. So did you take a chainsaw down the middle or long way?
It
or
all
short
worked
way?
out.
Yeah,
It all
for
worked
sure.
out. So
Huh. Were you guys so that to me it wasn't in the rules. To me, that's a very resourceful thing to do.
sure,
Were you guys the first to do that?
no.
No. I was curious about that. You guys were just the first to do it really good.
Yeah, well, we were kind of on the top of everything.
Right.
And it just we both could bring in really big bags, and they were doing their thing. They were throwing a jig,
Yep. Flipping.
and we were throwing the Wiggle Wart. We beat them almost every time, but no, I shouldn't say that. It was about a toss.
Plenty.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it seemed like if they wanted to jig, they did very well. If there was a crankbait bite to be had, there's no question who was going to take that down.
Yeah.
From what I've heard, anyway. But did you guys? I mean, how powerful was that to me? Working as a team with a good teammate, because you see pros doing that now, rooming with the right people, and you have to. I mean, when you're competing, you have to. Those are the rules, and as long as you're being ethical, I mean, those are the rules.
Yeah, and the key is that we became very good friends.
Right.
We'd stay at their house, they'd stay at our house, we'd party together, we'd have them over, that type of thing, and they were top-notch people, and I think we were too. So it worked out just great.
Absolutely. That's so cool.
Well, there's a lot to say about partners. It's tough to find the right partners and to stick with the partners. I know. It's hard to find nowadays. It's hard to find that good partner. It really is, or partners. However you want to look at it. But
Jay Carlson is one guy you and him did really well, and he's a hell of an angler too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. He's really good with I've talked to him about DTs and like weighting DTs and stuff.
He was a
and
master at that.
He just talked to me about it for 10 minutes and blew my mind. I'm like,
Yeah.
dang.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be in the boat with him, and he'd be throwing that DT, and he'd be catching them every cast. And it was because they were weighted, and he almost used something like a jig, where he'd pull along the bottom, and he'd have them suspended just perfect.
Huh.
He'd catch fish.
Year round.
Yeah, all the time. And the other thing he was great at was that frog. I mean, he was a master.
To that too.
Yeah, he was a master at that.
Huh. I always thought a frog was the simplest bait to throw, and then you fish with like a good frog angler, and it's like, man.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's
there's some add-ons that you have to.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's like
such
there's this hot girl at the other end of the bar, and every guy wants to talk to her, and you got to figure out. Yeah, that's frog fishing.
Yeah. That's still one of my
You gotta
favorite
dance
things
it
to
right.
do, though.
Let's sit there long enough.
Not in a tournament, but to grab my waders. Where I live, there's lots of
You
spots
sneak
where
around.
I can sneak around and go beat them up with the frog. There's nothing better when they're going.
Right.
When you cast 3 hours and don't catch anything, it's time to go home.
Well, what the hell did they have? They have in the 80s. What they have for a frog? The snag, the scum frog.
Scum frog.
Scum
That's what
frog.
it was.
That was
Yeah.
it. Yep.
That light ass little thing you couldn't even
Couldn't
cast.
throw.
That doesn't walk.
Well, he had that all figured out too. He'd shove beads in it.
Yeah.
Oh, he'd
weighed
get it
'em.
to walk perfect. I
The
bet.
glass, glass
beads.
beads.
Yep.
And that's when I caught the state record. He had been fishing a lake, and he was been catching big fish, 7-pounders. He said,
Sure.
"You got to go." He talked me into going. I was supposed to be landscaping or something. And it was late in the fall, big front coming in. It was like 90 degrees out, and everything was just right.
Yep.
Right before front, fish were active. He was throwing a frog up in the lily pads, and I was kind of throwing a buzzer out away from everything. And this giant just came out of the water and dove right down on top of it.
Caught on a buzzbait.
Yeah, double buzz by Rapala.
Crazy.
State record on a buzzbait.
Yeah,
Oofda.
and I was using heavy stuff because I was a buzzer, and just basically reeled him right in. And Jay grabbed him out of the water, and he goes, "God, it's a state record." He goes, I got 9. He threw it in the live well, and kept casting. I thought, I better look at that. So I opened the live well and fell around. I said, that could be a state record. And so we phoned that place in Victoria. That's where we waded in.
Sure.
And they had a certified scale. And we talked to Shane. He says, well, you better get in there and get it weighed,
I could weigh that thing. Yeah.
So that was a highlight. I felt kind of relieved that my career had kind of gone as far as it possibly could.
Sure.
But it didn't. I mean, I accomplished a lot more after that, but it was something everybody wants to do.
Oh,
and it's been 18 years now, I think.
Sure.
17 anyway.
Dang. Double buzz, a black one too, huh?
No.
Black whites.
White. It was a white one.
Yeah, it's 2 colors on a buzzbait.
But there's something to say about in the fall when everything's
white,
right and those front you got to be on your big fish stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it can happen. Well, the proofs.
That is so cool. I mean, that's like you had no expectation. You weren't chasing that fish. You just heard there's big ones in this lake. And Jay Carlson probably had hooked so many fish out of them that slop or whatever, and big one squirted out, and
Yeah.
wow. How long was it? Long? Like was it?
It was
long fish?
24 inches, and it was like, if I remember right, it was like 18 to 19 inches girth.
Oh, that's a well built fish.
Yeah.
Man, and so that was 8 pounds 15 ounces.
Yep.
How,
They didn't have digital then.
okay, the old meat scale.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I like it. So, how many has anybody come close? Do you know, or
I hear stories
they
all the
only call
time.
you if it's broken? I suppose.
I hear stories all the time that we broke the state record while weighed in,
Yeah.
and it's not. Well, it's been 18 years, so
We've got, we've had high sevens out where I am. You know that.
Yep.
High sevens.
Yeah. I know
But
where you're
as,
talking.
as far as over 8,
yeah.
I mean, I really thought
Well, I netted
bigs-
one
Yeah, that's,
over 8.
That's true.
8 and a
Yeah.
quarter on that same lake.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you're right. Yep.
Yeah, I
Well, I
set the
think-
hook on it, missed it. I'm like, Dane sets the hook on it, misses it. Dane's little brother, who doesn't bass fish much, he's in crutches. He hadn't caught a bass all day. This is towards the end of the day, full moon, front's coming in on the juice. We're like, hey, Drew, pitch in there.
Yeah. Wow.
He pitches in there.
I'd been
And
sick.
it was 20 and a half inches only, 8 and a
Oh,
quarter.
wow.
Just
Wow.
a boxcar,
Oh,
a freak
wow.
of a fish. But,
Yeah.
I mean, I can't imagine
Throw another pound on
13. Yeah. Like, they're in there. Do you think it'll get broken?
Oh,
I guess.
I'm,
I mean, it's got to, right?
I would have thought it would have been broken a long time ago.
Sure.
I'm amazed it's not been
Yeah.
broken.
there. I mean, 9 pounds is a big
Yeah.
fish, though. You really think of the number. Go 9 pounds.
Yeah,
in
that's
Minnesota.
yeah.
That's crazy.
My biggest fish ever is 9 and a quarter, and that was in Florida. Right? And that was a giant in Florida for me, anyway. So,
It'd be cool to see. Maybe someday. Who knows?
right. Right.
Well, Dean would always say, I'd be in Texas and saying, well, I caught a couple 8-pounders, and Dean goes, well, you can catch them up here, he goes.
Does Dean ever go down to see you?
He hasn't. I'm sure he will now
Sure.
that he's getting out of the store and stuff. I'm guessing he will because he wants to get in that redfish stuff too. So,
Redfish are fun.
oh boy,
They got snook too down there.
Yeah.
Snook are fun.
yeah,
Yeah.
drum, the black drum.
We got drum up here.
Yeah, well, they're not quite the same.
No.
Some of those black drums, they're 40 to 55 pounds, and it's like reeling in a Volkswagen. It takes quite a while too.
I bet. So like, how do you fish for live bass fishing?
Well, in one area where the water's clear, we use spooks and swim baits and the normal type stuff that we use for bass. It's like in the dirty water, we throw more like a Carolina rig almost.
Sure.
And it's got shrimp on it or cut bait. And but it's all shallow water. The boat's hardly ever over 5 feet of water.
Really?
And it's such a fishery down there. So healthy.
So where in the Gulf is this? Because I've been to Spring Break and Padre, which doesn't really.
Well,
is
that's
right.
where the topwater stuff is. And
got
that-
my rod on Spring Break. God dang it!
And 100 miles north of there is a town called Rockport, and that's is I think by far one of the best places for redfish and black drum and all that stuff. It's just phenomenal.
So like Falcon,
And it's flats fishing. It's not. We don't go out in the Gulf.
sure,
It's all the
inland stuff, right?
inland miles and miles and miles of it.
Right, because you got like them jetties, then you got
Yeah.
backwaters with brackish kind of
Yeah.
stuff, and the tide is a big thing.
Yeah,
right?
it is. Yep.
How'd you kind of learn that when you, or maybe you didn't?
Well, I've been using a guide.
Yeah,
And
probably knows it well.
yeah, and both of the one in South Padre is a gal that has been a captain. She's probably 35 or so. She's been a captain most of her life, taking people out, guiding and stuff. And she knows her stuff about redfish and saltwater. And the guy that we use at Rockport, he used to be a biologist, worked for the state,
Sure.
doing all that stuff. So he learned a lot when he worked for them, and now he's a full-time guide.
Sure.
And he's the one making the boats.
Okay.
Just
Yeah.
started.
Yeah.
Just started making flat boats, and they're really unique. And he's got a winner there.
Good for him. That's sweet.
Yeah.
And that's like, so just out of my own curiosity, Falcon is on the Mexican border. And I don't know if you're on Falcon, but it used to be world renowned, and now it's probably still good. It's just very seasonal, like peak season and stuff. Is there a peak season to fish Falcon still?
Well, not lately.
Really?
Yeah, it's they've had some summer kills with the water being so low and the water getting so hot, and there's been diseases that are killed a lot of the big bass.
Sure.
And it's 45 feet down, or it's like 16% full. So it's basically the Rio Grande River is what you're seeing, and there's been a not very good hatches lately. There's no place for them to hide.
Sure.
The lake is plumb full of other fish, catfish, white bass, alligator gar that are 200 pounds.
Giant.
And so, everything's eating everything. And, it's the bass have not done good the last 2 or 3 years.
I gotcha.
And you got to have another 25 feet of water so it gets back up in the trees and the bushes and stuff so that those fry can
Sure.
be protected and stuff.
So then, are a lot of the genes gone then with the big fish dying, or no? Or don't you know?
No, I think I think there's still a few. The genetics are still there.
Yeah.
The fish just aren't growing because something's eating them.
Eating them. Yeah.
I think what he's trying to say is we have a border crisis.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna put that tube down the middle of it now. No,
Got a border crisis.
We go over to Mexico and fish that side quite a bit. The last 2 or 3 years, we've been kind of run off all the time because of they think it's more theirs, and so they've been
They'll run you off.
yeah. I mean, like
crazy.
That was
Guys
gonna be my
with-
next
I was.
question.
I kind of wanted to ask.
I want to
him,
hear
too.
some cartel shit.
well,
yeah.
guys with machine guns in the boat, and they ask you to leave, you're gonna leave.
Holy crap!
You think? Yeah, I'm out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I signed up for bass fishing, not machine guns here. Like,
So
whoa.
So it's really not worth even going over on the Mexico side anymore.
Dude, that sounds dangerous as
Yeah.
hell. Like,
It is. I mean, if you're in the wrong place at the wrong time,
you can get shot, get your boat stolen. Like,
yeah,
Jesus.
they look pretty good in a $80,000 or $100,000 boat.
Oh, I
Wouldn't
bet they do. Yeah, you're just a gringo to them down there,
They
like,
don't want you there either.
No. So, wow. So, because when did you move down there?
So. It's been 8 years now, I think.
8 years. Because I know you hear rumors about like Amistad, Falcon, like, hey, be careful crossing it. Like, they'll steal your, like, they got jet skis. They'll like surround your boat and like they'll mess with you. I don't know. Do you have any crazy besides machine guns? Like,
No, it's it's just guys that are in normal fishing boats coming up and saying, well, get out, and they show you the gun and stuff. Well, you're gonna leave.
Just because you're fishing, that's crazy.
Yeah.
do you think the fishing's better on that side because of that? Like some Red Lake reservations? You know what I mean? Like, are they like
Well,
they're keeping them bass to themselves, like type of thing?
well, they net,
I
so they don't care what they net. I mean, everything. So it's that keeps everything in check. So the Mexico side, people used to go over there all the time because it was better fishing over there, especially in the spring because they had some huge spawning bays, and so all the fish would go over there. Well, they mostly dried up now because of the low water, so and that's hurting everything. But Falcon just is not as good as what it was 10, 12 years ago. Not even close, 15 years ago.
Well, and I've heard really good things about like how Texas manages their fish, but being that it's on the border and you have that other dynamic to it, they probably are more invested inland. Is that kind of true without trying to be politically correct about it?
I think it's the water level and
Sure.
it's the disease that came through and killed a lot of the big fish. That's two main reasons.
Is all of Texas seeing that water level drop? And because I'm just trying to factor that in, like, you know,
Well, Amistad did.
Amistad and anything
And-
on that river.
And that's not nearly as good as what it used to be either.
Right.
And a lot of the inland dams and stuff, they're shallow too. I mean, there's been a big drought going on down there, so it's affected everybody. But like that ivy,
OHIV, yeah,
holy crap!
it's pumping them out.
Yeah,
It's #1 lake, I believe.
Yeah.
for
Crazy.
Bassmaster.
I mean, you've got guys who've essentially figured out a Wiggle Wart, except it's live scope and something else, and understanding like how big the fish is on the live scope. Oh, it's a 3-pounder. That's that's probably 12 1/4, 12 1/2, Jim. I
We'll
can
try to
tell by
catch
the
that.
tail. Yeah, we'll pitch it this one for a while, and like
And
there's
it's- and it's not everybody that goes down there is catching them either,
No.
because the lake is packed with boats.
right.
It's just a few guys that have got it figured out, and it's good for them.
Right. Yep.
They're putting them big records together.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things where I respect anglers like Mark, like, because the best anglers that we've always watched have kind of developed something magical that has propelled their career. Jim Moynihan with the football jig, Mark Raveling with a Wiggle Wart, KVD with power fishing, Rick Clem, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And time on the water, like, nobody can do it like this guy does it. And Shane has found his own way, you know, just like you found. And to me, that's what's so cool about everybody I've talked to on this podcast is nobody's telling me the same thing. Everybody's doing something different, but generally there's something behind it. That's confidence. That's, you know, all those other things that people seem to have in common. But the willingness to adapt and stuff with that Wiggle Wart, was there a certain weather you needed where you would or wouldn't throw it? No.
No, we throw it all the time.
I love that.
Didn't matter.
Sunny, calm, post front, didn't matter.
Didn't matter. They were
This is crazy.
tuned into it because the schools were so competitive.
Sure.
And once you fire that thing over their head, then you just turn on the whole school.
Well, and I suppose, did you feel like you could, like your time on the water when you're practicing, you could cover water obviously
No
more
question.
efficiently than a guy who has to flip all of that milfoil? You
Yeah.
just went.
Yeah.
So did your practicing become less because you had that
No.
dialed in? You still practice like you would?
Yeah. I mean, we were out there.
Yeah.
We were out there all day long, as many days as we possibly could. So we spent a lot of time on Minnetonka. And when we went to a different lake, we'd always go 2 weeks ahead of time.
Sure.
We'd fish it for 2 or 3 days, and then we'd go home, and hopefully they would be there when the tournament came about. And the odds were usually pretty good that they would be there.
So you go way early.
Yeah. So nobody'd see us. And
Yeah.
Yep. Smart.
Kind of hard to do that nowadays.
Right. Well, that magwort's that's a big bait, and the Wiggle Wart is kind of a small bait. How'd you know when to reach for one or the other?
There was no question. It was always the mag.
Always reach for the mag.
Yeah. I mean,
You didn't throw a wiggle much then, or did you?
no,
No.
it was always the magwort.
The wiggle was your decoy that you'd put on the front deck at the beginning of the
We
tournament.
didn't even do that.
Yeah.
It wouldn't matter. We'd put the
didn't
magwort
care.
out.
Yeah.
We wouldn't wrap it or anything.
Sure.
You know.
Yep.
Because
you wouldn't? No, it was there and people could see it.
They didn't care.
That's crazy.
Isn't that crazy? Like you can throw the same bait and I'm still kick your ass. Like how good is that feeling?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how. I mean, when you have that key to a lake, or, you know, there's little things that just. It's like a fish or a light switch, and if you can figure out how to turn that light switch better than somebody else, that's sweet.
Yeah.
So
That's crazy.
tournaments, you obviously noticed I brought one of your old AMs from a few of your tournaments here, who I guess we haven't got into this yet. So I call him Uncle Dino. He's Dean Nalezny, and he flies under the radar, kind of like Mark Raveling. But when I was a young buck learning how to bass fish, I'll never forget some of the awesome old stories and memories I had fishing with Dean on a number of different lakes. But fishing out of the back of Dean's boat, I learned so much, and it was just a great experience and time. And it was so cool. I got to fish out of the back of his boat, learn things, and hopefully I taught him some things over the years too. But hearing about the Silverado days when he was fishing the Silverados as an AM and getting drawn with Mark Raveling and just some of those old tournament stories that were before my time, I think I enjoy those more than anything, because it's just such a cool, it was such a pure time to be fishing. And it was kind of like the 60s and 70s for music, was kind of like the 80s and 90s for tournament fishing, if you will. It was
absolutely right.
It was very experimental and very like evolutionary time. And now it's like top 40, like you got lures and songs like they're nothing, right? And back then it was like Wiggle Wart or rap, like everything was very. So I have both of you in one garage right now, and I'll be honest, that's pretty cool to me, because when did tournament fishing, kind of the big tournament stuff, start? Like for you, I've heard about these Shelbys, I've heard about these Silverados, I've heard about Irwin Jacobs pioneering the Shelbys into FLW, but I wasn't there, so I don't understand. Like, there needs to be like a history book written on it, and maybe we're just recording it, but.
Well, so when Mark was fishing the Shelbys when I was looking in the newspaper. Sure. They actually had, Shelby was on Channel 4. Don. Well, he actually got Channel 4 to do, I believe it was a half-hour show of each of the Shelbys.
Okay.
So that was all you got. Outdoor News would run a little you didn't have a lot to, we don't know social media or anything like that.
Yeah, nothing. Yeah.
The Star
Didn't even
Tribune.
have internet.
No, Star Tribune might have a little paragraph.
Right.
Well, then I grew up on Clearwater. So Clearwater had a lot of bass tournaments. So then Billy Hildebrandt, Raveling, Gary Lake, Bolick, Mark Fisher, that's how I knew those guys fished Clearwater. So then I seen them on TV. I was like, I was like, man, that'd be cool to do that. No, I was a kid yet when all this was going on.
Yeah.
Well, then the Silverado popped up, and I was like, you just got to be an amateur.
Right.
Just sign up. I was like, why wouldn't you want to do that?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you? Yeah.
So
like,
that was
my thoughts,
I think
too.
96, 97 was my first year. I didn't do so good. Well, I was nervous. There's 100 boats and bass boats. And I mean, it's just TV coverage. I mean, it was crazy. It was crazy.
I'm
for a
still
young
nervous for every tournament.
Well, I get nervous too. But then you get into the tournament deal, and the blast and the takeoff and all that. It's just and it was a night before dinner. I mean, it was just crazy.
Yeah, it was the Minnetonka Boat Works and Irwin Jacobs.
Yeah.
Threw lots of money at it.
Yeah.
And had people, dedicated to making it work. Yeah. And nobody else was doing it besides Bass in the country, and he was competing against those guys.
Yeah, because it was 100 boats. It was 100 boats. And, of course, that's how I got to meet Todd Bissett. And that's how I got to meet a couple other guys, because then we got to room together. So we had our amateur core group just like the pros did. We hung out. We roomed together. We talked about, it'd be nice to get this guy or this guy. So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And then some of these guys I got to meet and know, and next thing you know, you're pre-fishing with them.
Right.
John Lobb from Frankie's, I got to know him really well. I mean...
Heard some stories about that guy.
And I think I did the Silverado until it's kind of fell apart, and I think John took over and did a Minnesota Pro, whatever it was. Yeah. So I think I did it, I don't know, 10 years maybe total.
Sure.
It was great.
Yeah.
Learned a lot of stuff and met a lot of cool dudes, and and for that time there was nothing like it.
Well, and the prize money.
Oh, jeez.
Was unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, they were giving trucks and boats away, and
paying out 15.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think some of the the amateurs we were winning. I think when I took second, it was $2,800. You know, I won 3,000 the other year. I took second.
Wow, payouts didn't change at all from 96 to 2012. Jeez.
They probably went down.
I bet the entry went up.
But then, but the prizes, you know, we had the awards deal, and they had all these prizes, and you got dinners. I mean, it was basically a 2-day deal. I mean, it was really cool. It was only a 1-day tournament,
Right.
but I mean, I'm glad I did it, and I don't think you'll ever see anything like that again.
I remember the banquets I used to hand out prints
Yes.
from what's his name? Wild Wings.
Wild Wings.
Yeah.
Remember the 1,000? I think it was 1,000-yard spools of Berkeley line. People, they were handing them out just like popcorn here.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
It was huge back then. I mean, and I'm going to talk about Works and
Yep.
Erwin Jacobs grew it
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
to become the FLW. So.
Yep.
The beginning of the crack epidemic. That's what fishermen are. We're like that. To me, how fishing is kind of like crack. It evolved in a similar way.
Yeah. That's how I get hooked.
But Erwin, to me, I don't think he gets the appreciation for truly what he did for the sport. Because I've heard multiple people talk about him that way. The people who knew him, the people who went through kind of that phase of the sport. Yeah. It's like, hey, without Erwin, like our sport would not be as big as it is today.
I totally agree with that.
That's I mean, that's pretty cool coming from a dark suit, so to speak, you know, a corporate America. So that's I remember hearing a story about him fishing with Teddy, and that was kind of like I want to hear some Teddy stories because he's quite the character. I mean, he's now passed, but I mean, there's not a lot of people where at their funeral the casket gets hauled away in a bass boat. And to me, that, I mean, no matter what you think about anybody, to me that's a bass fisherman right there. Is that your plan, or if someday?
I'm not gonna die from
I love it. With advances in modern science, I mean, it's going to be at least another 150 years.
Boy, what a way to go, huh?
That was a way to go. Yeah, and
that actually made the news too.
It should have.
Yep. I mean, it was a cool deal.
It should have. I want to be cremated in a bass boat someday or something. That's how I want to die. I want to die. Yeah. You know what I mean? But
like my ashes on thrown in Lake Minnetonka or something.
Yeah, dude,
that'd be
something
cool.
sweet.
Yeah.
But like a guy like Ted Capra, I mean, I've heard some wild stories. He's quite the character, and he had a lot of influence on people. And I've heard the same about you. I think you were just a little bit quieter overall. Maybe he was just a little bit more outspoken.
Yeah, I mean, he was able to talk. He could wiggle any piece of information out of anybody, and you wouldn't know it.
That's what I hear.
You know, I mean, he'd start asking questions, and then finally you would spill something out, and you'd know, oh my God, I said something I shouldn't have. You know, the other thing that he was real key at was, well, take me out, and show me. So you'd take him out, show him the spot, what you're doing, where it was at. He'd have it all dialed in. all the cappers were like that, though. They could really get information out of anybody. They were wizards at that.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I guess you've gotten to raise, you've gotten to be, and you've gotten to know a lot of great tournament anglers. And I guess I'm always curious about this. What do you think makes a great tournament angler? There's a lot of different attributes, but there's maybe some commonalities you've seen between all of them.
Well, I'd probably say time on the water. I mean, if you could do one thing, it's being out there with them, and trying different stuff. What works for you probably won't work for anybody else.
Sure. So you think because you think those guys just spent more time on the water? That's it? More days on the water? There was nobody else that spent the same amount of time on the water trying to be as good as...
Well, it's how efficient you are on the water, too.
Correct,
right? Some people, fish tournaments for 20 years and never won one or never did very well in them. I mean, it's some people just got it, And it's not many guys. It's like 10% of the guys that are fishing tournaments.
Yep.
You know,
Well,
get it.
there's that. To me, there's that like sixth sense. To me, there's this, some sort of mental.
Decision making on the water.
Well, decision making, knowing when to be where and why.
Yeah.
And Shane is somebody who I think is always been somebody I've looked up to with that, because I feel like that guy will see the wind switch and immediately leave and go here and whack them. Like, so, but there's also a mental confidence to it, right?
No question.
And what is that something you you can train yourself on? Like, was there things that you would tell yourself on how to be that way, or do you think you're wired that way and that's...
Yeah, I think you're pretty much wired.
You're wired that way.
You know, and it's and if you're doing good, it just builds all more confidence in what you're doing, and that's just a step above everybody else.
Momentum, I think, is probably the most powerful drug in any sport, whether it's hockey, whether it's fishing, whether it's football, golf. I mean, you name it. That for sure.
I think a lot of it too. You know, everybody can get lucky and win one,
Right.
But as far as stringing them together or
far
having
as winning.
consistency,
Winning 15 boats.
well, there you
Right.
go.
I don't know if it was 15 or not, but it was a
I
lot.
heard it was more than that. I think Shane and Dean said it was like 30 something.
Well, I know it wasn't that.
I think just the Silverado. I think 2 or 3 for sure.
Yeah.
And then I think you had that stretch where you won 5 or 6, and I think that would have probably been the Classic, right? Minnetonka Classic. I'm going back memories now.
Yeah, no, it was an amazing run, and you know, like we said earlier, if there was a boat to win, we would win it.
That was like your That was your mega. Yeah.
That's cool.
Would you guys fish for points, or would you guys fish to win every tournament and didn't care about points?
Yeah, we'd fish to win.
Yeah.
All the time, you know, and we wouldn't fish to get a limit. We'd fish for big fish.
Yep.
Period.
That's
all
it.
we did.
All day.
And if we didn't get it,
Here, at least
we
you
wouldn't
tried.
win.
Right. Yep.
You know.
So do you think that mentality has went by the wayside of going for the big ones only?
Well, I know in Shane's mind, it has not. I mean, and Mason and Carter, I think, are doing the same thing.
Well, I think some guys, you know, there's a lot of guys that just tournament fish.
Right.
You know, we know people, everybody knows. But I think you have to have that killer, you know, if the prize is a styrofoam cup with first place spelled backwards and that's what you're fishing for, there's guys that want to win that.
Yeah.
Other guys are like, well, I'm just out here to fish.
Yeah.
You know?
I'll tell you what I think is missing nowadays, and to me is probably Mark highlighted it, and I've had multiple phenomenal anglers also highlight it, and he mentioned it earlier, and I won't forget it. And he said, we just put the trolling motor down.
Yeah.
And we would learn every inch of that weed line, and we would learn. And to me, I almost don't even want to say it out loud, but to me, that is what no one's doing anymore.
No, yeah.
And to me, that is how you can. Everybody sees the map. Everybody sees their act.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that's a point with a sharp drop on this side and a less sharp drop on this side. You know what I mean? Everybody knows that now.
Yeah.
So I'm going to leave it at that. I think that to me is the biggest thing that's different is everybody thinks they can just go do it quicker and hack it and cheat it and
But that
be
was
extra efficient. But what if you just put the trolling motor down?
Yeah.
That's the best advice Doug Petrak ever gave me.
yeah.
It's like, you want to learn something, you
Go
put the
fish.
trolling motor down.
Yeah.
And to me, time on the water, confidence, there's that sixth sense. Seth Fighter's got it.
Yep.
Shane's got it.
Yep.
I mean, there's that something, and I feel like I'm maybe not that way where I gotta kind of really work for it, so to speak. I've never felt like I had that sixth sense, so to speak. So I'm always curious about that, you know, because I respect it. But smallmouth, I do. Okay, so smallmouth, you two won a smallmouth tournament together, and what's cool to me is they're my favorite fish to chase is a smallmouth, hands down. I mean,
They're my favorite until the redfish, but Smallmouth are
You can have
phenomenal.
your redfish. I love them smallmouth. I'll get old and love redfish someday, but
Yeah, there you go.
Still, then I'm gonna love smallmouth. But we were talking about there not being smallmouth, and then there's smallmouth. Like that Long Lake tournament. How many tournaments had you seen won on smallmouth before you two got paired up in the Silverados and won Long Lake?
I don't think so because I think
How many?
Honestly, I don't think. I think the first year the Silverado was 96. I didn't fish it. I fished 97, 98. Mark and I fished 99. I honestly don't.
It was always largemouth.
Largemouth, Mark. I think
Yeah.
Mark's right. I don't think there was any smallmouth.
So you never weighed a smallmouth in a tournament, maybe until
Well,
you got
I
there?
wouldn't say
Oh.
never.
Or
Yeah.
you know, it was a random one. It was never
Yeah.
targeting them,
Yeah.
specializing in them.
Yeah, and it was almost hardly anybody caught smallmouth.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's a different fish than a largemouth.
Yeah.
And to me, what's cool about you guys winning that tournament and just that in general is nobody knew how to fish. There wasn't a book on how to catch a smallmouth back then, was there? Or was there?
No, because what I learned from him that day, I took to Mille Lacs. That was before it got the shit kicked
Yeah.
out of it. And that chartreuse tube up on Mille Lacs was a gold mine.
Yeah,
we beat the shit out of him with that. And I learned that from him.
So how did you learn how to smallmouth fish? Like, because, yeah, we just talked about it. It didn't exist. So
No.
you just like, there's smallmouth. So
Well-
they act the opposite of a largemouth.
The Fort Francis tournament must have been
Oh, that's
going
right.
on.
You
So I
fished
was-
with Lumen, correct?
Yeah, so I've been fishing up in Canada.
Sure.
So that taught me smallmouth, but that was Rennie Lake was really on fire for a long time, and that's kind of died off because the smelt aren't there anymore. But they were really on fire, and it was Mike and I's kind of fishing again that we could fire up a school and just pound them, and that's kind of how I learned to fish smallmouth. But the Long Lake tournament, there again, I mean, it was a spring tournament, if I remember
It was
right.
cold, too, if I remember right.
Sounds fun.
And I remember pre-fishing for that tournament, and I found that spot, and Gary Lake came ripping up to me, and he put his trolling motor down. And he goes, "What time you got?" I thought, well, that's kind of weird. Well, it was noon or whatever. And she started chit-chatting, and we started talking, and all of a sudden, all right, catch you later, and he took off. Well, he knew that spot was there, and he was trying to draw me off of it. But I don't know. We got a better boat.
We
number.
had boat 10 because I checked I got a scrapbook of all
Yeah,
my
dude.
tournaments and stuff. So when I checked it, it was boat 10 we had. So we got her.
So we got it. Yeah, and it was lights out. I mean,
I mean, for me as my, I had fished Silverado, a couple of them, but to stop and we beat the crap. I mean, and they were big. These weren't.
it was a 10-pound wind or something.
Yeah,
wasn't
we
it?
had 2840, and I think Bonham or Newman had 1960. Yeah, because I checked all the stats before I remember it was almost 10 pounds.
Yeah.
And old Hesse, we had decals. It was a trilene bag. Do you remember those? And he goes, if that thing is up on the top of the decal, he's got, and Mark, I think, said, because I actually got it on tape, I think Mark said 24 pounds, and it was 2840 for 8 fish, with a 4.5 kicker for big fish.
Which was giant back then, because
Oh, God.
smallmouth were, like, you didn't have your woman leech mullet.
No.
Like, that didn't exist, so,
No, that pretty much did it for me.
right.
Yeah.
For sure, man.
Yeah, that was cool. Well, and then to get paired with him again in 2003, that was the second day of the Tournament of Champions. And we went and beat the shit out of him again on Tonka. That was fun. Well, and then we knew each other. So there's that no pressure. I didn't
Yeah.
feel nervous because I knew
Yeah.
Mark, and Mark knew I could catch him. Not bragging, I'm just saying he knew I could
Yeah.
fish.
Yeah.
And we went out there and
Knew
beat
you
the
weren't a
shit.
hack.
No,
anyway.
no,
Yeah.
exactly. You show up with a Zebco over your shoulder, and so yeah, that was fun. It was
So you
good
learned
times.
how to fish a tube a little bit. That
That-
first one.
That was where I learned how to okay,
Snap
went,
a tube a
went
little
to
bit.
Mille Lacs and
Yeah,
snapped
it
them
was.
and,
It was definitely a
it was
different technique.
exactly. It wasn't something like now I do a lot of dragging.
Yeah.
that was snapping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you ready to reel in your next home purchase or refinance? Supreme Lending's Dream Team can help guide you through the entire mortgage process, from pre-qualification to closing. They have a wide variety of home loan programs in their tackle box, including down payment assistance and first-time homebuyer options. Just ask me. I trusted Aaron Dagas, a bass fisherman just like you and me, and Supreme Lending's Dream Team to help finance my first home. Contact Aaron Dagas and the Dream Team today by scanning the QR code or giving them a call at 763-326-0677. That's 763-326-0677. Did I catch a 7 in there? Or visit their website, aarondages.supremelending.com. That's AARONDAEGES.supremelending.com. This podcast is brought to you by my brother from another mother, my tournament partner, and the best rod builder north of the equator that still has 20/20 vision, Veselka Fishing and Customs, specializing in custom fishing rods. Your custom rod, the way you want it, because it has to be your rod. However, he has a wide variety to choose from, including his all-new for 2023 custom chicken rod. If you throw the big fluff, the hairy Gary, the rotisserie dissery, the half-ounce Palomalu, the 3/4-ounce rooster biscuit, the lightener looking like D. Snyder, you're going to want to be throwing the Veselka Fishing Chicken Special Big Hair Jig Rod. Mr. Veselka spent a lot of time on this rod, and it has the perfect action to throw, hook, and land those fish that you maybe pulled the bait out from because the rod was too stiff, or had them spit it because your rod didn't have the backbone. Well, the new Chicken Special from Veselka Fishing and Customs has worked to solve both of those issues, along with superior balance and quality components. So head on over to his website, veselkafishing.com. That's VOCELKA fishing.com. Pick this rod up before it's too late, because up here in the North Country, they about to be schooling.
Big difference.
Yeah.
Lightweight or heavier one?
I think it was pretty light.
Yeah, we were in shallow water.
Yeah, it was shallow water.
Oh, yes. It's kind of like a predecessor to the fluking them.
Pretty much.
So to speak.
I'd
kinda.
say something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, they were all over that thing though.
Yep. And it was.
I think I had to make a run to get some chartreuse.
We had
tubes.
it. Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Yeah. But you never forget your first.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that day, because it was the first big. Even though I wasn't running the boat, it was the first big. Then you're on stage and everybody's oohing. It's cool.
Yeah, you never lose.
No.
Never lose that going up on stage
No.
and winning a tournament.
Yeah.
Good feeling.
That was cool.
It is.
It is. But that's so it's kind of power fishing is then because you're a hell of a smallmouth angler and a hell of a largemouth angler, but it seems like, chartreuse tube. I know, I've seen you and Shane take second on Pokegamo, shallow bay stuff.
We should have won that.
I know you should have.
That's 200s. I think we lost.
Yeah, no, I feel like I've learned stuff through you guys, but that whole power fishing, triggering those smallmouth, to me, there's a lot to that, and I think a lot of guys think you need to finesse them all the time, and I don't necessarily think that's the case.
I still struggle with smallmouth. I just do, because I get wound up, and I'm a slow fisherman, and that don't help.
Slow can work if you know where they're going to pull up.
Yeah.
I remember the Rainy Lake tournament. So it was when they were on fire up there chasing smelt, we'd have 15 of them on the bottom of the boat. And Mike would say, "Don't catch anymore." I can't. I got to take care of these. And I remember we were probably in the first flight. We got up.
Yep.
Went up 20 miles or whatever, and Mike's dad and his partner drove by about 20 minutes after we did, because they were in a later flight.
Yep.
We had our limits and fish flopping on the floor. it was just amazing. And that was kind of fishing up there for many years. It was just, we had so many heartbreaks up there too.
Sure.
Where we should have won, and we were throwing those husky jerks and stuff, and they come off those just ready to net them, and
Yeah.
they'd fall off. I remember one tournament, we lost our first 5 fish that would have won the tournament. And they were all huge, and they were within a net, and they just pulled loose. Mike and I both sat down on the bottom of the boat and cried.
I believe it. Well, them husky jerks, like I remember Paul Newman telling me a story about how they used to, they didn't, like jerk baits nowadays, you give a rod a little twitch and that thing,
Yeah.
easy to work. Them husky jerks,
yeah,
you had to use a stiffer rod, I feel like, to get the bait to work right, which is not going to help probably your landing percentage looking back at it. But that rainy deal with them smelt, it seemed like it was more of a cloud kind of wind pattern deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. What if it was sunny? Did you was the smelt bite still to be had?
It seemed like, well, it's there again. I mean, we fished for 5 bites,
Right.
or 5 big fish. If we got 8 bites and we got 5 of them to the boat, we normally had a pretty good bag.
Right.
Come sun or whatever, we always seem to be able to do that. So
Because have you won the Fort Francis? A couple
Twice.
times. Yeah. Dang.
we won the 25th anniversary.
That's an honor, man.
Yeah.
I've had a few Fort Francis champions in now. Moyna's been here.
Yeah, Moyna dominated that. for
Moyna
years.
He won, I think, a couple times. He won back to back, I think.
Yeah,
at one
he's
point.
won it numerous times.
Yeah.
I think Thrun fished with them in every one.
Yeah.
Joel Thrun, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he was good on Clearwater, too, if I remember right.
I did
Yeah,
get him in
yeah.
Clearwater a couple times.
Oh, I know. No, that's cool. Like, so smallmouth, I'm just curious, how did they start? And I know how they get big, like got so big, they're a dominant species, but like, I heard they're not native to any lake.
Yeah,
Where did a smallmouth come from? Like, I don't even know.
Well, there's a lot of guys that transport them.
transplanted them.
I think that was the answer I was thinking
And
was the
that's
case.
a true.
Yeah, and it must be the weather or something changing that made them thrive the way they are.
Think so?
The way they have been, yeah. Because it's, I mean, like you said, nobody ever caught smallmouth.
No.
Catch and release helped tremendously.
No.
What about the weather, though? Global warming?
Yeah, I'm thinking it warmed up,
Yeah.
and they adapted to that, more forage or whatever. But boy, they're animals. They're wolf packs.
They're fun.
Love them.
I love them.
No, I remember in the cities when, I'd fish from 694 Bridge all the way up. From shore.
Yeah.
You could have 50, 60, 70 fish days. Now they're
Wow.
not big, but you'd have a popper bite.
Yeah.
I feel like rivers is kind of where they
I
came
know-
from, and everybody brought them to lakes, maybe,
Yeah.
or they swam to them.
Like the Crow River, that dumps into a lot of stuff out by me, and I think that's how a lot of them, when the water was high. That's just my, and there's transporting going on too, but
Right.
back in the day. So
Well, even on the river, though, when I first started down the river, we always fished for largemouth.
largemouth, yep.
Yeah.
And now you almost have to fish for smallmouth.
Yeah. Depending on time of year and stuff, yeah, for sure, the smallmouth dominate down there. But this is the youngin' in me. I've always loved the 70s, the 80s. I want to know what partying was like back then. Like you didn't have, like, the cell phones was the size of a 7-inch mag draft if you had one,
I'd be in jail if we had
So
phones back
like
when
you
we
couldn't, like, how would you call each other to, like, say, hey, we're chilling out over here tonight? Or,
We
like,
used
how
to-
did you guys even live?
We used to meet at the Burger King. That was when you'd meet. Where's the party at? And if you got sidetracked at midnight, you meet at Wallaby's Bar. That's what we always did. We
Gotcha.
didn't have
So
cell
you'd have,
phones.
like, meeting
We'd have
points.
meeting spots.
You'd have, like, safe points.
And then
Gotcha.
don't forget, I had a buddy, and we've talked, I know, that never, to this day, has never had a drop of alcohol. So he would drive us around. So whosever night it was to drive, he would come over to that person's house, pick up his car, go pick up the hoodlums, and away we went.
Yeah.
Cool.
So we never had an issue with drinking and driving because he was always dry,
Right.
and that worked out great.
And
So
you
that
go to the
was
Roxbury.
wherever you wanted to roll to.
Yeah, we never partied that much. We did once in a while, but
Yeah,
it
you never partied.
Yeah, no, that was early to bed, early to rise.
Yep.
For tournaments.
Exactly.
For
Yeah. So
tournaments. I've heard about these blow days at Sturgeon Bay, Reggie. So you can't fool me for too long.
No, we used to have our fun too, and yeah.
I mean,
wouldn't change it for anything.
Man, I feel like I would love to go back in time and like just one night.
I
Party
mean,
in like the 70s, one night.
so I
party
grew up in the
80s.
80s, and it was metal, heavy metal. You
Yeah,
know that.
yeah.
You know, I still listen to Hair Nation when I'm working and stuff, and that. It was great, but that was before I started fishing and all that crap too. So, Motley Crue concerts, stand in line for tickets, yeah, all kinds of neat stuff. So
What kind of music you like? You jam out on the way to the lake? Shane listens to that ghetto shit, so I'm just wondering.
Well, I don't do that.
I'm just wondering about Mark.
Yeah, lately it's been more country, new country.
New country, okay.
Yeah, I'd like that a lot.
I gotcha.
There's so many great artists, just unbelievable. I just enjoy listening to it.
I do too. I got a record player inside if anyone's interested after, but that's awesome. Do you have like a song that you would jam to the lake like back in the day when you were in your glory days? Like, do you have the Magwort, the Magwort anthem, so to speak?
No, but up at Fort Francis, we picked a song when we got pulled through the tent and stuff, and it was Saturday Night, I think it was called, by Nickelback, I think it was, or Kid Rock, one of those.
Okay, yeah.
And we jive out for that. That was
Right on.
Yeah.
mine would be Shoot to Thrill AC/DC if I made it on stage ever.
That's a good one.
That's what I would do.
I have a hard time not picking Petty. Tom Petty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll get there before I will, I'll tell you that. Unless we fish together.
Yeah. But you're quite the businessman too.
Well-
I've used to sell boats at Intune Marine was my career, and there wasn't many that went out the door without a My-Wedge Transom
My-Wedge,
Saver.
What
Walk me through that a little bit,
Yeah.
because that to me is what a cool thing.
yeah. What a gold mine.
Really.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's been out 25 years now.
Sure.
And it all started basically when I was doing the FLW tournaments, and I hated that transom bar.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had to figure out a way to make something different that was easy to use, did the job, and that was cheap to make, and you could sell it for a lot of money.
Yep.
That was my goal. Well, I tested it when I was going down on the FLWs, and it looked like it was really going to go, and we were getting ready to launch it and all that stuff. And I had my worst year I had, not that I had real good years on the FLW, but I had one medium year, one I thought was a good year, and then one poor year. Well, the poor year is when the My-Wedge, we were just announcing that, bringing it to life,
Sure.
putting it on the internet. The internet was brand new.
Right. Right.
And,
Took a half hour to get the thing up, probably. Dial up, yeah.
Dial up.
Yeah.
But so that's how I tested it all out, and I remember putting it on the internet. My the first order I got was from some guy in Iowa, about 20 miles from where I grew up, and but it's just been growing ever since.
Sure.
I mean, it's just unbelievable.
That's awesome. I'm just wondering, like, the inspiration of it. Was it inspired from a dildo? I'm just gonna ask it. Was it or
No.
no? Okay.
Actually,
Don't let this thing around your wife, folks.
we'll buy one for your wife or your girlfriend or whatever.
For sure. You got to get two.
Yeah, that's one for your boat,
One for your boat, one for your wife. Love that.
I've heard it all.
Oh,
with that
guarantee
thing.
it. I've heard some shit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. But it was a 2x2 by 10, I think it was, piece of oak with a hole drilled in it. I still have those. I had 2 of them made, and that was the first My-Wedge. Those 2.
Really? You still have them?
I still have them.
That's
yeah.
cool.
And I learned right away that there was no give. So I knew that was going to work. And then I started working with Craig Wicklin. I used to work for Craig Wicklin.
Sure.
And he knew the guys at Rubber Industry, and he said, you got to go talk to them, and they'll fix you all up. And we came up with a prototype, basically, and tested that out for a couple of years, and started selling them big time. I've been working with Yamaha now for, I think, almost 20 years, 18, 20 years, and we make them for Yamaha with their name on it. And they have a new trim system in their 150s to 250s right now, and we're just finishing that.
Cool.
Motor support, so they should be out in a couple of weeks.
That's exciting, man. Congrats.
Yeah.
And wow. So I'm curious about this because you said your bad year was kind of when the My-Wedge took off, right?
Yeah.
And obviously, Mark, I don't think there's a person who has a question that you probably had the talent to make fishing a national career, tournament fishing, that is. And it's a really hard decision because it's about the toughest road. People don't understand how people see all the trophies and this with tournament fishing, but they don't see the long,
nothing
road.
easy about tournament fishing.
Right.
Well, and it was a time that I had to make a decision.
Yeah.
Do I run with this thing or do I fish? And I said, I gotta run with this thing. I mean, it was just a no-brainer. I mean, it was just, and it set me up for 25 years. And
Right.
I was going to say, now look at that decision made you today. You can go to Texas. You can do this.
Yeah,
you can
exactly.
Do that. That's a huge deal.
Yeah, it really is.
Yep.
Well, I've heard Dean tell that story with Shore Lunch and Capras in the store and kind of being the similar reason that those guys didn't do that. And honestly, I'm sure you get that question all the time, and Shane probably does too, and blah, blah, blah. But there's something to be said about that. And I guess, do you have any advice for young aspiring anglers about choosing those things? I mean, you've seen it all from how fishing affects families, how fishing affects finances, how fishing affects everything in your life. So I guess there's a lot of people that maybe don't understand what they're getting into,
Well, to me, everything was kind of at a high when I was doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, everything was just growing and growing and growing. Right now, the prize money is out of sight and all that stuff, but it was growing, and I was on the very beginning of that, basically. And the sponsors were easy to get. I had a lot of help from a lot of people. And it's a tough deal. You go down south, fishing against guys that have fished the lake for 20, 30 years, and it always was around the spawn the way it seemed. I'd never spawned fish.
Yeah.
Never fished, never caught a fish on the beds.
Yeah.
So they had it all dialed in. So it was like, what do you do,
Right.
It was a tough learning curve.
For sure. I feel like it still is. And we have all the information in the world now. You didn't have YouTube back then. You can go watch 4 spawn tournaments and kind of see what they're looking in the backs of this creek and they're using they fishing this type of rock and near these bushes. You couldn't do that back then. So I gotta imagine it was really hard, even though the prize money was maybe better. But
it's,
I mean,
there's
I
nothing
still dream
easy
about that stuff, who doesn't want to fish for a living? But you see, you're almost not even fishing for a living at that point. You're fishing for a meal and a shot at another one.
Yeah. Hopefully you got enough money to make it home.
Yeah.
I
know, but that Champions Tour is pretty sweet deal up here. If you think about it, if you really did your diligence, 3 tournaments. Let's just say you won all 3.
Look at Noel Schultz.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You can. That's pretty sweet payouts.
Yeah,
You know, when you
for
think
sure.
about it.
Yeah.
Peters. I mean, look what Peter with the Vexus contingency money.
Yep.
Look
Yeah.
what Peters
Wow.
did that year.
Well, how
I think
about-
he did 50 plus grand that year, which is
Yep.
pretty good for a circuit in Minnesota.
Look at
Yeah,
Thompson with
that's
all
great.
those big fish. Look at all the cash on that. Just that.
That
That's crazy. That is crazy.
Thompson. So okay, there's a lot of people who maybe start to question whether that's real or not.
It
but
is real.
I will say nobody is doing what he's doing. It's kind of like Raveling with a Wiggle Wart, except like Thompson's talking to the moon at night type of deal. You know what I mean? Is
Oh,
he's
yeah.
practicing for the moon, and he's like he's doing he's doing his musky deal bass fishing. So I mean, no one's doing that.
Yeah, but your team
He did it
trail-
again. He told me straight up
Yeah.
on this microphone. He's like, practice the major, tournament fish the major. That's all there is to it.
Yeah.
That's what he
He
said.
looks at me at Big Stone after the tournament. He's like, same shit. What'd I tell you? It's like, God dang it. Where's my farmer's almanac? Jesus. Oh, man.
I mean, when I musky fished, yes, we did follow that, and there is a lot of truth to that.
Yeah.
Now, bass fishing, I do peak and stuff. I'm not saying it doesn't work, but I think it was when we musky fished, we didn't swear by it, but we definitely were trying to be in on the spot when it was going down. But
I'd say it only matters during the spawn, and then I talked to Matt Thompson, and then I'm like, I don't know.
now, when I chase big sunfish in the wintertime, I tried to do that. Yes.
I've always wondered
Nice.
that with wintertime, right? You've got this is a legitimate question that I was pondering this winter in my loneliness tying hair jigs in this place. But wind, like how does wind affect a lake if there's ice on it, right? Okay, so how does shit move around when there's ice on a lake? Well, the earth moves, right? And the moon moves. So is wind even a factor in the winter?
If you look at my logbook, yes.
How
No, a strong northwest wind. When a front comes in, I want to be there before that hits.
does the wind backflow down the holes that
no,
everybody
no,
drilled
no.
to like churn the water up?
But there's I have legitimate in my logbook. Yes, not all the time.
I want to hear more about this logbook now that we're talking about it. How like this sounds extensive. This sounds like a Dean Nalezny encyclopedia.
I'm pretty anal, you know that.
Oh, I do. He counts the
just-
yards of his line
Yep.
down to the inch. It's wild. I'm not that
Yep.
way, as you
Yep.
can tell, but
I can get 3 spools off of anyways. So my logbook, I if it's a full moon, I put all the basics in a little paragraph. I don't get crazy.
every time you're out,
Some of the real bad times, yes, I put down if it's a really bad night or day or whatever. But most of it's the good stuff. Not every time out, I just, what the weather's doing, what I caught, where I fished in that, and I just look back. But not. I mean, it's amazing. You look back, a lot of moon stuff. It's crazy. It's true. I mean, not every, but a lot of the big stuff has been moon.
so you've looked at and
Fronts.
found patterns. If you collect
Yep.
enough data over time, you can assess that data.
And
make
I'm
patterns.
fortunate that I can work out of my house. I can fish when it's right. I go.
Yeah.
Do you know what his journal says? Sunny, magwort.
Magwort.
Cloudy, magwort.
Yeah.
Rainy.
Rainy magwort. Windy magwort.
And actually, Todd Bissett is
It's
the
weird.
one.
They're always eating the magwort.
Todd Bissett is the one that got me to start doing the logbook.
I can't get myself to do it. Kind of like a planner. Like, I can't get
That's the
myself to do
problem.
it.
If you wait 2 days, it's like, oh shit, what was you might as well forget it.
Yeah.
So that night, if I get home, I'll or even just jot down on a piece of paper, and then I'll put it actually in my book
Yeah.
when I.
I never did that.
I never did that.
But now that I'm getting older, I can remember the spots yet.
Yep.
But I can't remember what I caught them on.
And that's what I have been adding in the last 10
Yeah.
years, the bait.
Yeah.
I wasn't.
Wind, bait.
Yeah, I do the the temperature. I tried to do the wind, and then time. When did I actually fish? And then if it was a major, if it was full, if it was whatever, right?
Yeah.
And not a crate. No, I don't write a chapter. Just enough. And
I would just need to write too much shit each time. Like,
Well, that's where you got to be.
where does it end?
Yeah.
That's the problem. You have
10-pound
to just.
test line.
No,
I
I
mean,
don't get that crazy. But.
Well, it's like you could though.
Sure.
You could.
Oh, you could. You could get really
I'm crazy.
So it helps.
We're all crazy.
Well, then I got all my scrapbooks from tournaments and
Yeah.
all that crap.
That's crazy.
I've got
That's
all
cool.
that stuff, But I do that in the wintertime, Just keep it all in a pile, and then when I get bored in the winter, I go. It sounds like I might be doing hair jigs this winter, so we'll have to.
I think, yeah. I think that's.
I'll be on
definitely
board.
one. Yeah. So MyWedge stuff. So you decided not to go pro per se. You looked at your career, and was the sport changing at this time, or was it just kind of one of those it was a gold mine opportunity that you had to take?
No, I don't think it was really growing anymore. It was
Yeah.
kind of stagnant. I think Irwin had gotten the FLW up and going, and it was high. I mean, there was a lot of prize money. And actually, I think it probably was going to start falling to a sense. Sponsors were a lot harder to get. You had to be totally committed. And I couldn't do that. So
Sure. And what do you see in the sport now, I guess, that is either maybe good to see or bad or both, because it's a lot different world out there now, obviously.
Yeah. I with the active stuff, and all the Honeywell's got, our Hummingbird has it, Garmin has it, Lowrance has it, and they're all good. Carter and Mason taught me how to use this stuff. Otherwise, I would have thought, what? I didn't want nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
But they showed me that you got to be using it. I think pre-fishing has changed a lot. Where if you have two guys in the boat, the guy in the back of the boat just will not even be there
Really?
with the active target because it's the guy in the front that's.
So you think you need it that much?
Well,
Like,
yeah. I mean, if you're using that to target boulders
Yep.
and fish, I mean, the guy in the front of the boat knows what he's looking at, can cast. The guy in the back of the boat can be fan casting, and you very seldom ever catch one.
Depends, I guess, how much stuff's nearby.
Yeah.
I still can't get myself to just look at the thing all day.
Yeah, well,
Like-
those other guys are.
Probably should, yeah.
I mean, I think if you're going to be competitive, you got to use it.
You have to use it. I agree.
Yeah, but to what extent? Yeah.
It's a tool.
It's a tool. That's
a tool,
What you
not
said
a
is
crutch.
true. That's correct.
Yeah.
A lot of people use it as a crutch.
Easy to make it a crutch.
Yep.
And I have used it, and I think it can make you worse at fishing.
Yep.
Well,
I do.
I think that's.
Well, goes back to what Mark was saying about the paper maps. I have a lot of paper maps at home, and I've got spots marked in X's, and DT, whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
But I find myself looking at my waypoint. Okay, now I'm there. I have nothing to mark. I'm not using anything anymore.
Yeah.
So now I'm lost. If I don't, I'm like, wait, I'm not on my waypoint. I don't have nothing marked, and you can't do that.
And it is weird. Mark's seen this a couple times over with technology, right? But you learn a way to fish, right? And a way to fish, and then things change, and then it's like you said, it's weird to try to do it completely different than you're used to doing it.
Yeah. I still like going out, just getting on the weed line and go.
Yep.
I personally, the active target, I like it, but you have to know what you're getting into with it because
But there's some people that it kind of kills me. It's new stuff. It's new technology, and everybody knows what the fish are. And I'm like, that you can't tell me that that's a bass. It's if you just got. No, I'm saying if you've been using it for years, I get it.
Right.
But
right,
some of
right.
these guys are like, oh, I know that's a 3-pounder and that's a walleye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not that far advanced yet.
No.
But I know some
Not
guys
even
can
close.
do it. That's
Talking
true.
to them OH Ivy guys,
Yeah.
to me, those
Yeah.
guys, they are actually, a lot of them I think were crappie fishermen before they did the bass thing, and that's how they dialed it in.
Yep.
And it but the way the fish moves,
Yeah.
I read about how fast or slow they move, how they group up, the tails.
Well, that's what Carter and Mason are telling me. They can tell they can tell the difference because of the way they move and the way they interact together. And
Yeah.
yeah,
It's wild.
No.
And I think I can kind of tell I'm not as good as those kids, though.
No.
Yeah.
I'm still old school. I like to, like Mark says, I like to get on a weed line and go.
I use it to make sure I'm making the right cast.
Oh, that, yes.
And
Yep.
I use it to
But that goes...
let me know the activity level of the area I'm going to be fishing.
But you're using
and
it
there's
as a
certain
tool.
instances where where that's what you need to do all day. But I don't think, like, if that bass is in the weeds, you ain't going to be able to live scope it.
No.
It's down in the grass, you know.
That's where you get the 1 ounce drag and rip the shit out of it.
Or the old magwort.
A magwort.
Or the old magwort. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's cool. I don't have it on my boat. Will I get it? I'm still, you know me, I'm old school. I don't fish
You need it
competitive.
all. You need it all. Why not?
Well, I know next boat maybe, but I don't. It is cool though, Mark. I tell you, I was kind of against it. Now I've been out with some guys, and it's fun. I gotta admit, it's fun.
I'll tell you what's crazy. That perspective mode on that Garmin is dumb. Dumb. I thought 360 was cool when I had that. And that perspective is like, I'd watch them, like, I can watch the whole school swim around on the spot.
Yeah.
yeah. The problem, I've got that in Texas on my Texas boat. There's so much stuff in the lake. That's all you see is fish. I mean, there's white bass, there's crappies, there's everything, It's all swimming, it's all together.
Nothing taught us how bad we are at fishing better than live scope and forward facing sonars. We're like, oh, geez, there's a million of them there.
There
I can't
is,
catch any
too.
of them.
Makes it very frustrating.
It is. There's a lot of fish in the lake, and you never realize how many fish were in the lake until you pan that thing around. There's fish everywhere.
Well, you should see it in the wintertime when you get on like a school of crappies in a basin. You think summertime is cool.
Yeah, winter's where it would really highlight.
It would wipe, like if we had this back in the day when we fished Red Lake, it'd wipe it out.
Yeah.
Well, that's what's interesting to me is, like, I have ice fishermen tell me that they'll get 3 guys with 3 live scopes and they'll herd the schools of crappie around because they're used to the pinging, so they swim away from it. So they have a guy over here, so they have to swim away from the pinging. They swim towards more pinging.
Wow.
And then the guys drill holes in the middle, and that.
Now old school herding is we would herd them by jumping on where the reeds would be, and you would jump to push the fish to the corner of the reeds where guys would be stationed almost like a deer drive. They would have their holes drilled and they'd pluck them off as you push those fish along the reeds.
That's some wild
That's
shit.
old school herding, not new school herding.
That's like that's like the old deer
Deer
drive.
drive. Yeah.
The old deer
Yeah.
drive. Yeah.
No. See, I told you I'm old. I got all these little trinkets. No, it is cool though. I gotta admit, I was, like I said, now that I've been with some guys, and it's pretty neat stuff. I gotta admit it.
Well, I just got the active too, and I've got a Humminbird 360 that I haven't put on yet.
Does your neck hurt yet? Looking down at it? Mine does.
You got to get the big pole like the boys out by me got.
Yeah, so
don't
it's
like
up
them
up
poles.
higher.
It's up 3
Oh,
feet.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
sweet.
yeah.
I'm telling you, it's
Makes
really
a big
nice.
difference, yeah.
I'm waiting for the Neuralink where I can just
Oh,
see it from anywhere.
Yeah, just put your
throw a chip
glasses
in my head. And
Yep,
there they are.
it's around the corner.
problem is
for sure.
Problem is in the front of the boats, and I'll take a Kiss concert. You got buttons and whistles and lights, and it's just it's crazy. It's just crazy.
It's getting wild, yeah. I think what's interesting though is, like, guys down south, they'll literally, if they see a fish and it's closer than 50 feet, a lot of times they can't make it bite. But if it's a certain distance away, they can still make it bite. So what guys will do is they'll go up, it's there, and then turn it away and make sure they don't flash it at them, or else they know it's kind of like a deer letting you know you're there type of thing. But with that, so to me, it's like fishing's about to get wild. Like, it's going to be about it. The game is changing. It's ever changing, and just like the world, it's changing faster.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's hard to change with it too.
Well, and that's why those kids are going to be so good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because
everyone
they
knows
know
it too.
They growing up with it and they know how to use
Hey,
it.
you don't see a lot of older guys really on your circuit. There's not. You think about it.
No, there's not.
There's not. And I don't know if guys are just going down by the wayside, or just saying, hey, I just want to hang out.
Like Dean and Ron are playing that. Like they
Yeah.
understand you need
Yep.
to change. Like Dean and Ron,
Yep.
I've seen do that. But to me, okay, there is something that's lost potentially too when you're doing that all day too, right? So like there is something to be said about understanding it's cloudy and the wind's this way, or it's sunny and there's no wind, or that kind of purist, that foundational bass fishing kind of level stuff. And if you're playing video games all day, are you going to miss that in looking at the screen? And that's my big question is, are things going to come full circle where those fish don't want a single ping on their face or they're spooked? I mean, who knows? But I'm always curious about, because to me will never totally die.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe you think it's all on the screen now, but
Well, I don't know if fish are that smart to
right,
begin with.
right. Maybe I'm giving them too much credit.
Yeah.
You didn't use the idle back then,
No.
like that.
No.
You just fish.
Yeah.
Would you zigzag a spot? Like, well, okay.
Find
So
it.
there was a time where there was a crankbait dominating, and then flipping something into the milfoil and a little bit of Carolina rig.
Yeah.
And then Moyna kind of came in with a football jig. And I think there was certain days where he dominated with that thing. And, I mean, you've maybe seen a few things come around over the years, but, I mean, what was that like? And I guess I got to witness it all because you guys had done it all before I even started fishing, right? But what was it like having a new, kind of like you did with your technique, having a new technique coming in and dominate everybody? What was it like on the other side of that?
Well, I hated it.
Did you learn something from it though? Like
Yeah. I mean, he was fishing a lot deeper rocks, more rocks than anything.
Sure.
And we never went out that far, I don't think. So then we went with the Carolina rigs and the deeper crankbaits, and that was effective also. But he had, he spent a lot of time out there perfecting that.
He had it to himself
Yeah,
for quite a few years. I think.
Yeah, for sure. He had, it was kind of talking to Moyna was almost, it was cool like this conversation because he had a key to the lake that no one else had.
Yep.
And it was like, when you think it's like Batman when he puts on his suit, kind of feeling when you get to the lake, maybe, right? For a tournament. But how long do you think he was throwing that before anybody knew what he was throwing? How long do you think he kept that quiet?
Yeah, I guess I don't know.
You don't know?
Yeah.
Well, how long was he winning before you knew it was on a football jig?
Yeah.
That's maybe.
Well, he was good, and he picked it up quick, and he spent his time out there and figured out where and what to use. I mean, nobody else was really going that deep.
Sure.
And I know they had one national tournament up here where everybody was deep. All the pros were deep, and they were all catching them. And that was kind of a shocker to us local guys.
Sure. So did you guys then kind of try to go, did that force you guys to try to fish deeper, obviously?
Yeah.
I mean, it's the best way to learn is losing to something,
exactly.
right?
Yeah. Well, we started throwing deeper crankbaits and throwing roller jigs.
Yep.
Had to.
Right. Well, who is he? I mean, the only one I'm familiar with was the one I grew up with, which was all-terrain tackle. Now everybody's making a football jig, but I know, was it Skinny Bear? That was kind of the I don't even know what football jigs were around. What roller jigs you had to choose from back then? Because when did All Terrain start making one? It wouldn't have been probably till after Jim started doing pretty good with it, right?
I'm just trying to remember who some of the jigs were. Because I learned the roller jig and then took that to Clearwater. Remember, Clearwater was always behind Tonka.
Yeah.
That's how I picked up the milfoil.
Right.
When I got to Clearwater, it's like nobody's doing it because I learned this from the Silverado guys on Tonka.
The bass boat industry is always behind the automotive industry, and there's things to be
Yeah,
learned with
yeah.
that, right?
Yeah.
Like the jigworm.
The jigworm. That's another one. Like, holy smokes. I still love a jigworm.
Yeah, I do
and
too.
now everyone throws the Ned rig, which to me is a small jigworm.
But that's
It's amazing how effective it is. Though.
So effective.
That's the stupidest lure they've ever had, and they just gobble it up.
It's
crazy.
just amazing.
It is.
It is. Don't touch it. Till you got one. Oh, I got one.
It
That was
is
easy.
amazing.
Like,
crazy.
why were we working so hard throwing these magworts all the time, right? Like, let's stick a
Exactly.
jigworm.
I got these
Sit back.
9-inch band-aids on my side, right?
Did Shane call you on an 8-inch cell phone one day and be like, "We're working way too hard. We're working way too hard.
Yeah, no.
No, just open the bail, let it sit there." Like, was there a moment where the jigworm was like, "What?"
Yeah, I mean we threw that with a Senko on it all the time, and just threw it out there and let it sit.
Yeah.
It was amazing. I mean, it just all of a sudden the line would tighten up, or you'd see a pop
Right.
and reel them in.
10-pound Maxima. No,
No.
not as much to it. With that.
We didn't use the Chameleon on that, but we did use Maxima,
Sure.
our clear, our green.
Sure.
That was our preferred line back then. Man. You can't. I don't even think you can get it anymore.
No, I'd be shocked if you could.
Yeah, I mean, I picked up a.
You might find it in some old hardware store, and in some. Yeah, you might never know.
I found some Chameleon that was from somebody, and I bought it. It was a big spool.
Yep.
Man, fishing a 1-ounce jig back then, I'd have probably told the guy to get the boat on plane so we could set the hook right with that mono on a big jig like that. It's just mind-blowing to me.
Well, I think when I first started flipping the foil, I was using the Dacron that I used for muskie fishing because they didn't have the braid, if I remember right.
Yeah,
So tough. I believe I was using tough 35-pound tough line, and then I was black markering,
Sure.
Yeah.
and tying on the big jigs for the milfoil. That's what I was using.
Sure.
And my lighter musky rods were 7 feet because I was like, you got to get that, and you got to. So the tackle was barbaric when you really think
what
about
it is today.
Yeah,
for sure.
now,
Right.
now you got these light rods and reels and 65-pound braid. Yeah, it's
Shit's wild now.
Yeah.
Shit's nice now.
Yeah, it is.
It's really nice. It's like, I don't know how you guys used to do that.
Oh,
Well, it's like hockey.
Yeah.
Like you put on all the hockey pads they had to play with in the 80s. And you're like,
Couldn't
"We
walk."
can't even
Yeah.
skate. Like,
But that jigworm, though, I mean, I don't use it as much as I used to, but I still throw it. It's still
that's one of
effective.
that's a close to home Minnesota originated
I think so,
technique. You had the gopher tackle,
Yep.
mushroom head jig, I believe,
And I
was
still
kind
have
of like
some.
the magic beginning to that,
I
right?
still have some.
yeah.
I got a couple. We actually, I didn't tune. I don't know if it's the originator of Gopher or the guy who bought Gopher tackle got a boat from us. So I got
Oh,
a bunch
really?
of
Oh, cool.
The newer Gopher tackle jigs, which they seem good. you know.
Yeah.
But was there a guy who who was dominating on a jigworm before anybody else? I've heard multiple names get thrown out when it comes to
Jigworm
this
John
conversation.
Laub, right? Wasn't he? Wasn't
Yeah,
he kind
I
of
guess-
a jigworm dude?
yeah, he
Jigworm
was.
John.
Jigworm John Laub.
Yeah, we used to throw it a lot. I don't know when we started doing that, but
Well,
I know it was in
didn't,
the Shelby's.
How about Steve Lumen? Steve was what, that
Lumen?
was Mike Lumen's dad, right? Steve, didn't
Steve.
he throw a lot of jigworms? I'm just going by memory, but
Nah, I don't think so.
no.
I think Capra threw a lot of jigworm.
Well, he threw a jig quite a bit.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think who else would have threw the jigworm quite.
Well, I know in the Shelby's, we always used to throw that a lot.
Yeah.
What did the front deck look like back then? Because now, I mean, I'll bring 12 rods, but I used to bring 5,
Dean Capra, I fished with him one time, and he always gets a kick out of this. He goes, Mark Raveling's tackle box. It was filled with mag warts, and they were all the same color. That's all he brought.
You told me that story. I love that story. Mark brought 2 rods, both crankbait rods, both Wiggle Warts, both same color, and one tackle box,
All the same.
all the same.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if I came into your boat in a day for a tournament? I brought one box of the same lure and two
Same
rods
color.
with the same lure, same color. I throw one thing all day.
I don't think it would happen now at this day and age.
You bring less rods than anybody I know, and it's
Yep.
3.
Yep. Yep.
So Mark trumps that.
Yeah.
You still do that? Just Mag-Wart, call it good. Fuck it.
I haven't thrown a Mag-Wart in a long time. I haven't fished Tonka.
I
And,
suppose. Yeah.
you know, I don't go to Gull that much or Whitefish.
So it doesn't work that good on women, is what you're saying.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work for smallmouth for some reason.
That is
You'd think
weird.
it would, but
Wiggle Wart does.
yeah.
Yeah, but
that's
you know
true.
that back to the rod bit though. There's some dudes. I mean, there's 20 on a side, and I'm like, you got to be kidding
Yeah.
me. You know, I don't know. To me, I mean, there's a, I'm, me. I have my specific. I get kind of lost sometimes in the shuffle because I'm not throwing something. But I just, you don't need all those decisions on tournament day.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Yeah, if you had more than like 1 or 2, 3 rods out on the deck on tournament day, it's going to be a long day.
Right. That's how I kind of think about it too.
I
but
think times have changed from that.
But I think you're right. I think the smallmouth nowadays.
Maybe not if you're raveling, but
I think smallmouth nowadays got people. You got to have. I think you need to have quite a few. Largemouth. I think you can get by with less. That's my personal opinion. But
I agree with
Right.
that. I think Champions Tour is
yeah,
made me feel like I need to have 3 different patterns ready to go,
Yeah, that's
so to speak. And you feel like you need to change a lot quicker. The
Yeah.
5 fish thing, it's like I need 5 big bites,
Yep.
so it's almost like you could do the same thing,
Yep.
or total opposite, because if the weather dictates a topwater bite in the morning, you maybe need a topwater rod for the morning, but you don't need it the rest of the
No.
day. Well, maybe you need to bang some docks that day. Like there's
Yeah.
3 good docks you need to bang,
Yeah.
right? So you need maybe 2 rods for that, one in case you fuck up and
Yeah.
throw over a post. And
Yeah.
I mean, you start to mix in that mid-range now: chicken, chatterbait, crankbait pattern, swim jig pattern, swim bait pattern. I mean, and they all catch big ones.
Yeah.
I don't like.
They didn't
I
have
don't-
that many choices back then.
I don't like all this shit on my
Yeah,
deck.
it
What's a
was-
swim bait?
It's
like
a
yeah.
Mag-Wart
Swim
or a
bait.
Mag-Wart.
Yeah, that's right.
it's a Mag-Wart that doesn't rattle or doesn't wobble.
Yeah.
Like they didn't have all those choices.
No.
Like the sport's gotten more refined, which is also can be very distracting, I think. But
Yeah.
Well, just look at the line aisle. If you were a lost ball and had no idea on fishing line, where would you start?
Yeah.
Honestly.
YouTube.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying. But I'm just saying.
No, for sure.
You know.
But like Mark was saying, how they used to blast 30, 40 out of a school on one lure, right?
Yeah, I think that's
Over.
crazy.
But I've had it on Tonka where now, if I throw the same lure in there, I don't get bit again. But if I throw a different lure with a different rate of fall and I get bit again, and then I throw a different lure, like that's where I'm coming from with having 8 rods maybe instead of 3 is like my personal unfortunate experience, maybe.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Wow.
but.
But I
There's
just,
plenty of guys who probably blast them on one lure on the right day, right time. You know, I don't know.
I just
I
don't
think we overthink it too. So
I think that's a big thing. I think a lot of guys overthink. Fishing's fishing. They're big fish. They're
not that smart.
No, they can't be. It's like turkey hunting. Not to change the subject, but everybody, turkey's got a size of a brain like that.
they do.
And if they had a nose, you'd never kill one.
Yeah.
It's just a fact. We overthink that too. So, but
There's a weird thing though that is a story Chad Smith told me about a rock bass, and it kind of made me question everything. Now I agree with you. The bass's brain is the size of a pea. We can all agree on that.
Yep,
The
yep.
dimensions of the brain are this big, right? He broke a rock bass off with a crappie jig. It was on his cabin dock, and he was watching the fish. And he proceeded to watch the fish go up to a dock post, knock the jig head out, and swim away. This is a rock bass, mind you. This isn't a large or a smallmouth bass. This is a rock bass.
Good thing they don't have rock bass tournaments.
Holy smokes, man.
never
We'd
win
have
one.
15 rods on the deck. Holy smokes, man. But,
That's crazy.
I mean, like, you hear shit like that, and you also
Wow.
see smallmouth not eat 12 things you throw at it or whatever, and then you throw this thing, and it comes unglued on it. And that's the kind of stuff that I think we mess with our own heads because of it, but there is something to it. They're not just a dumb fish that every one of them eats a magwort.
Yeah.
You know?
We saw that in Ring Lake a lot, where you had to be throwing the right bait, otherwise you would not get bit. And pre-fishing. That's all it was, finding the right bait. And we were up there long enough that we knew the spots. It was finding out the right bait to throw.
Yeah.
What do you mean? The fish's brain is the size of a pea.
Well, but
They're
they
dumb.
were feeding on something else. Though.
Correct.
Yeah.
They're keyed in on something. They didn't want like I've seen that with schooling. They want a little bluegill or they want a big bluegill, and you need to give them a little bluegill
but
or a big one.
I chase those big sunfish.
Yep.
And I sight fish them. And when that big sunfish comes in the hole, you can have 2-pound test line. Everything can be right. Everything, the lure's hanging, all the bug, everything looks perfect. And that fish will come in and he knows something's game's over, and he starts to back out.
Did you try 1.5 pound test? Like,
Dude, I'm just telling you.
but the fish's brain is so small. They're so
but-
dumb. Why didn't you catch it?
That's my point.
Well, maybe they're just not hungry.
You know, and see, I think a lot of has to do with that too, because as humans, we don't eat 24 hours a day. You know,
Well, if
It's
they
a
were
trigger.
hungry,
You said it before. It's trigger,
It's
though.
trigger.
They're not hungry when you make them
if I'm coming
active or you make
Yep.
them react or
Yeah.
like. You think that those fish ate that magwort out of hunger? I think they ate that magwort because it ran by them so fast and they were so hot. Like it immediately, it was like calling a woman fat. Like, pew, had to eat it.
well, that's why you don't got a girlfriend. You can't do that.
Totally, you can't be doing that. But
they were competing
Yeah.
against each other to get that bait.
Yep.
so when you got 8 rods, they're all trigger mechanisms.
Yep.
They're all tools,
Tools.
right? And one triggers a reaction strike. One sits there long enough where blum, 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 they got to eat it.
Yeah.
One, I don't know.
That comes from experience.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, if they're not doing this, you better be doing this.
Right. Right.
And I think too, and nowadays with guys are such good anglers, and everybody's got every possible bait under the sun. There's nothing these fish really haven't seen.
Yeah.
You know, when you think about it.
That's why I got 8 rods on the deck. And
Oh, yeah.
I'm not
Yep.
disagreeing with you guys, and I would much rather have 1 or 2.
Yep.
But maybe it's like, I don't know what it is, but I feel like I need 8 rods on my deck. Is that maybe?
I mean,
that's
four
bad?
on a
If I
side?
find out they're eating 1,
Yep.
I ain't touching the other 7.
Yeah.
Like it does, they're just sitting there. It doesn't mean I got to use them.
Yep. Well, like smallie fishing, you know, like the green tournament, I'll have enough because I got this color tube, in this color, this, you know, you have to.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of being a hypocrite because I will have more than 3.
Well, if they're eating a jigworm, and I know they're eating a jigworm, I'll have a 3/32,
Yep.
an 1/8, and a 3/16.
Yep.
And maybe
Straight.
one will have a different color. Like
Yep.
I'll maybe have the 1/8 have a different color on it or something.
Curly
and you're
tail,
testing
straight
that
tail.
bite, and you're
Yeah.
you're testing that.
Yep.
Sometimes they want it faster. Sometimes they want it slower.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to play him Marvin Gaye. Sometimes you have to play him Motley Crue.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but in Mark's day, you only had to play a Motley Crue, and that sounds pretty fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was fun.
Do you? I guess is there one moment in tournament fishing that is kind of like what's the best moment in your fishing career that you felt? Probably your fondest memory.
Well, the fondest is catching the state record bass.
you can't
I mean,
blame
that
me for
just,
that.
I mean, it was, I just kind of took a big breath and said, God, I'm relieved, you know, I hit the top of my.
This podcast is brought to you by my brother from another mother, my tournament partner, and the best rod builder north of the equator that still has 20/20 vision, Veselka Fishing and Customs, specializing in custom fishing rods. Your custom rod, the way you want it, because it has to be your rod. However, he has a wide variety to choose from, including his all-new for 2023 custom chicken rod. If you throw the big fluff, the hairy Gary, the rotisserie dissery, the half-ounce Palomalu, the 3/4-ounce rooster biscuit, the lightener looking like D. Snyder, you're going to want to be throwing the Veselka Fishing Chicken Special Big Hair Jig Rod. Mr. Veselka spent a lot of time on this rod, and it has the perfect action to throw, hook, and land those fish that you maybe pulled the bait out from because the rod was too stiff, or had them spit it because your rod didn't have the backbone. Well, the new Chicken Special from Veselka Fishing and Customs has worked to solve both of those issues, along with superior balance and quality components. So head on over to his website, veselkafishing.com. That's VOCELKA fishing.com. Pick this rod up before it's too late, because up here in the North Country, they about to be schooling. It's been confirmed. Aliens from another planet have landed on Earth. Sources say there's been 2 confirmed landing points for these extraterrestrial beings. One being Japan, and also, unexpectedly, in Minnesota at Waypoint Angler Supply, a local tackle shop on Lake Minnetonka. With the ever-expanding universe, it's no surprise that there are other planets out there that also share our love for the sport of bass fishing. And to Earth's surprise, this latest visit came from extraterrestrial fishermen light years away, and many innovations ahead when it comes to fishing equipment. Some hypothesize these beings came from the planet of Naboo, matching up with Mayan folklore dating back thousands of years with fishing equipment ahead of their time. It has been confirmed they left things never seen before by an Earth-born bass. Waypoint Angler Supply is the premier space station in the bass galaxy and has tackle that could previously only be found in Japan or the planet of Naboo. The Waypoint ship is full, but we don't know when the astronauts from Naboo will be back. So hurry in to Waypoint Angler Supply today and stock up on that Area 51 Planet of Naboo JDM good before your buddy is whooping that sweet ass of yours. Stop into their store on Lake Minnetonka or visit their website, waypointanglersupply.com. That's waypointanglersupply.com. Use the code GALAXY20 to save 20% on your next tackle binge. Aliens are real. Thank you.
My career, I mean, wow, what else can I do?
Right.
And that was probably the main thing. But there's so many tournaments that I can look back at and just, I'm in awe on how well we've done, and wouldn't change a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was there one boat or one championship that kind of meant, maybe it was earlier in your career, kind of one of those first kind of wins where it kind of set in for you a little bit more?
Well, I think it's when Shane won the Shelby, or the
the
Don Shelby.
Shelby.
That was my highlight.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And I mean, not many people get to experience that. They get to experience, themselves at the top of that tournament fishing game, and then getting to see your son really. I mean, would you argue that he's even taken it further? Or do you guys go at it? Or is there a little bit of like father-son competitiveness between you two at all? Or
there always used to be. Yeah. But he, the last 10 years he's fished with Mason,
right?
Basically.
Yep.
And and he's taught him. That's what I wanted to see.
Yep.
And Carter's Rachel's boy is tuned into the whole thing too. So
yeah.
That's what it's all about now, is watching those kids.
Yeah. Well, you do an annual tournament on Woman Lake, I think. It's called Kick.
Yeah, Kick Mark Raveling's bass tournament.
Yeah.
And it's a charity event.
Yes, I noticed that. It's really cool you do that.
Yeah, we, it's for the Bible camp up there, the YMCA, and we've got a couple other ones that we we try to plug in every year, but it's local, and it's the time of year where everybody else is like deer hunting, so we don't get a lot of draw. But you know, I put it out on Facebook, and we raise, you know, a couple $1,000s every time.
Sure.
And it's just a fun event. If I win it, all the money goes to the charity. If I come in second, third, and fourth all go to the charity. But the nice part of it is, I don't win all the time, and they're still donating it all to charity.
That's
so,
awesome.
Yeah.
That's good.
That's awesome. Is there an entry fee for that then that goes to charity then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have you know, it's $80 or something, so
Sure.
it's a low deal, and it's just a fun event.
And that's on Woman Lake.
Yeah.
What time of year again?
It's usually the end of September,
Sure.
right in there, first part of October.
It's a fun time to fish out there.
Yeah, it is.
Do you guys fill up? Is this, or is it the type of thing where
Yeah, it's only like 20 boats,
okay?
and we
Will you take more?
yeah, probably.
This is shout out to you, Bass Galaxy folks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mark Raveling's Bass tournament.
And the one stop, the gas station, convenience store in town there is the one that sponsors it.
I think I slept in my truck at that place. There's a couple plugins there.
Yeah. Yeah, so you know, so they're a big part of it too.
Sure. That's awesome. And that probably feels good to give back, you know, too, you know. It's what all
Yeah, for
successful
sure.
people do
Yeah.
when they're done kicking ass.
Yeah, and
right?
I get actually I've been fishing it with my grandsons,
Yep.
and now the last couple years I've been fishing with my daughter Rachel.
Awesome. Yeah. That's cool. If you were to, what's your favorite way to catch a smallmouth? Like if you were to catch them one way,
Yeah, it's got to be top water.
top water.
Yeah.
You more
Skitter pop.
Skitter pop.
Yeah, or
Okay.
something like that.
Yeah. Cool.
The A-rig is phenomenal too, and up in Canada, you know, you could use 4 hooks. So,
Oh, sure.
You know, I mean, we caught 3 at a time. You know, that's
Was that something you're doing on Rainy kind of before that was big at all?
Yeah,
I could
I
see
think
that
so.
being big for
Yeah.
that smelt deal.
yeah, because most people, well, didn't want to throw it for one thing, because it is a hard bait to throw.
Not harder than ripping a mallet.
Oh,
through a
good
milfoil,
point.
right? It's easy.
Good point.
Gotta have 2
gotta reel it.
bandages on,
Yeah.
not just one.
I could even maybe do it.
Yeah, it's like throwing a musky lure all day long or
Yeah.
something like that. But yeah, I think we started it kind of in Canada too, where, you know, we were kind of ahead of the crew on that.
Sure. They still eat it. I mean, I think it's underthrown.
Yeah, I do too. Dynamite bait.
Do you find they always eat the middle one usually? If you're catching one, is it usually on that middle one? Like if guys are throwing mostly dummies?
Well, what I've seen is they always hit the chartreuse one.
Whichever one that is.
Yep.
I got you. So you'll put a target on there for
Yeah,
them, so to
yep,
speak. Yep.
yep.
I've heard about guys
Chartreuse.
doing that on every single time.
Yeah, Mike always used to just shake his head because everything was chartreuse for me.
Sure. They eat it.
Yep,
love
it works. So.
Yeah. Can't beat that. What was something? So you learned about the tube that day.
Yep.
I guess fishing, like they don't have a pro-am anymore and stuff, but like that was a really good way for me to learn. And I don't know if you ever heard about this one, Mark, but when I fished with Dean, it was called the Fishers of Men Legacy Series. One person had to be over 18, one person had to be under 18.
Okay.
It was kind of a churchy type
Yeah.
deal, but
Yep.
for me it was like a really good way to learn how to
Yeah,
fish as
yeah.
a kid and stuff. And remember Dean and I partnered up, and I learned so much with those and the Silverados, but it seemed like because we got to practice together and whatnot,
Yeah.
that we learned quite a bit more. But it's weird to me how things are passed down. So I've learned techniques from Shane, not through Shane, but from people who fish through Shane.
Yeah.
And that's just cool to me because I've then evolved them into kind of my own deal or what works for me. And
You bet.
like it's a sport that keeps on moving that way. There's a lot of ways to skin that cat.
Yeah.
And Dean, you've maybe seen a lot of different ways to do that, and I know we've caught them quite a few different ways
Yep.
on tour. But
Yeah.
I mean, flipping milfoil, I know was something that you
That's my
kind of love to
Yep.
do.
And it's getting tougher because the milfoil's just not like it used to
keep
be.
spraying it.
I mean, Clearwater's makes a guy cry. They're in a spot out. I shouldn't say that. It's a lot of it's gone. The money making spots are gone. Green is gone. I mean, it's sad. It's really sad because that is like if I had to pick one way to catch largemouth, it would be the flip in the milfoil.
Jig bite,
It's
Fun.
yeah.
Well, we've done it all. I mean, we've done it all day and done well, and we've done it all day and
We
done
got our
not well.
asses
Which
worked.
it's not very fun to do when you're not doing well with it. But
And that's what I tell people. I says, I don't think you're ever going to see a milfoil jig bite like years ago because they've killed so much off. You know, no, I'm not saying you can't find a lake. It's possible.
Yeah.
But you know how we were together that day and there was fish everywhere and it was like a salad. I mean, it was the craziest. I mean, but that's what you live for. You might take you 4 hours to find that spot, you know. But I consider myself a pretty good milfoil fisherman because I learned from Tonka and it wasn't to the Clearwaters yet.
Yeah.
Right.
So I got all that free milfoil to play with and figure out, and I learned how to, the jigs and the line. I learned all that stuff.
that's cool. Yeah.
And that was, that was just lights out, because before that it was a great plastic culprit worm with a 1/4 ounce bullet weight or a jig worm, and that's how I caught it.
Sure.
I didn't go into the milfoil. I didn't even know what it was.
Right.
So, but
That Senko on a jigworm deal, I learned from Nick,
yep,
who learned it from Paul Roush, who learned it from
Shane, yep,
And
Dynamite, man.
man, and I remember Shane won that tournament on Waska, that Silverado. I took second as an AM. That was my best finish ever as an AM.
Yep.
And I remember, I think that spot was magical, and Nick won, I think, 4 or 5 tournaments off. He started wanted to start there, but I think he started ended up starting 100 yards down because Shane started there. And
Yeah.
that spot was magical. But that Jigworm Senko deal, I had practiced with Nick for that tournament, and he had learned about that deal from Paul, who learned it from Shane.
Yep.
And that is why we took second, because the guy in front was throwing a jig, and he didn't catch a bass all day.
Yeah.
And I soaked that jigworm in the back, and it was felt like I had a Mag-Wart in my hand, and I was Mark Raveling, and it's 1984, baby. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's cool that way, and Shane probably hates hearing that, but there's a couple other techniques I got too that I learned from him. But
Yeah.
I appreciate you guys for that, though. At the end of the day, I think competition is good, and there's probably people that would bitch about you guys doing so good all the time and all of that. But
And they did. I mean, that's normal.
yeah.
It is. But at the end of the day, would you want it any other way? If you're going to get your butt kicked, I'd rather have Shane and Mark fishing and kick my butt than me kick everyone's butt, and those guys aren't fishing, right? Competition makes us all better, and it's a humbling sport. And Mark, you probably felt very humbled before you probably did some humbling.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then it's just a sport that always is changing and evolving. But did the payouts changing make it tougher to fishing tournaments wise? It changed over time, and it maybe got less tasteful for you. And I'm curious about what all that was. I know payouts haven't seemed to get better per se, and entry fees haven't seemed to get lower. Was that a big part of it? Or?
I think it was.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I just, the Rainy Lake tournament, you'd have to be on a waiting list to get into it, and it was high buck deal, and that kind of fell off the where it used to be. And the same thing with all the tournaments. Everything was not as high buck, and well, is it worth my time? And I did so much of it that especially after COVID, I just said, well, I'm just going to go fun fishing and enjoy life and not worry about if you're going to get up at 4 a.m. and get rained on and lightning on. And, so I'm just enjoying life. And, Texas is treating me real well, and Minnesota still is too. So
Yeah.
I enjoy it.
For sure. Did they even, with getting back to the weeds and that thing, that they didn't used to spray grass?
No.
They used to cut it.
Cut
with
it.
Big,
Okay.
And then there was people that did the nighttime copper sulfate, I believe.
Yeah.
This was a big deal
Yeah.
too, but that was not like it is now.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, milfoil is the best thing that ever happened.
Yep.
But
I love it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I love MILFs and oil.
Well, and like zebra mussels in the Great Lake, it's the best thing that ever happened.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cleaned it up.
I think in a lot of lakes. It's
Yeah,
done
exactly.
really well.
I won't say that. But
No, off the record. I said it, not you. We're good. No need to cut.
Yeah, that's just, I just think about the milfoil bites. It was so much fun. And even lakes out here, when I first moved out here, I was untouched. A lot of guys
Yeah.
didn't fish it. You can go beat them up. And, Green was especially a great flipping lake because nobody was doing it.
Yeah.
Now you can't find a patch of foil out there. So
I'm just curious how you change that, because it seems like it's a slippery slope right now
It
with the
is.
milfoil, and all it takes is a little bit of education to maybe help with that situation. It just seems like not all the fishermen are talking in all the wrong places about it.
No.
Maybe. I don't know. Mark, you seem like not a politician, but do you have any ideas?
yeah, I mean, there's guys that are trying. I mean,
Really?
Ron Scherer are trying.
Yep.
Those guys have got stuff going that are going to help us. It's a tough road to battle.
Yeah.
So we're talking like spraying, right?
Yeah.
You got guys, I didn't know this. So you got Ron Scherer working on.
Yeah, there's a group that I think Ron put together. Actually,
I think Ron did put
Really?
it together. Yeah, they do some articles in the outdoor news here and there, and then there's
they're lobbying with the
Yep.
DNR,
DNR and
and
stuff. Yeah,
That's wonderful.
Yep.
Yeah.
Where do I sign? Where's this petition I sign? Do we know what it's called or anything?
the funny part is I haven't seen too many articles lately. In the outdoor news. So I'm not saying I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know.
I'd get Facebook and
Yeah.
just go Ron Scherer and see what's
Yeah, because
under-
I believe it is on Facebook.
I believe it is,
everything
yeah.
he's doing. If I'm
Gotcha.
not mistaken. Yep.
If anyone's
Yep.
listening, please shoot this in the comments so we can blast it out to the Bass Galaxy to get these
Yeah.
Karens to stop spraying this milfoil, for the love
Yeah.
of God.
Well,
Because
they cut out by me.
they cut out here, and I don't know what
Yeah.
cutting does. Like,
Well,
I'd rather see them cut than spray, I guess, but I feel like cutting spreads it worse.
So this is never ending. I mean,
Right.
it's
So the funny part on the
spreading
cutting,
the seeds around.
yeah, the funny part on the cutting is some of the cutting they did in previous years. There's now good cabbage growing where they cut.
It is weird how that works.
So that's intriguing because I was like, especially on one like this year, I was like, holy crap, that's a lot of cabbage. Well, they previously cut the piss out of that.
Well,
So-
Moyna said in the podcast he thinks that like grass in the lakes is kind of like farmers rotating their crops,
Yes.
where you'll see a different one come up, and the fact that that field got plowed
Yep.
and another grass came up kind of made me think of what he told me with that.
And it's good cabbage because I actually grabbed some and ripped it. I wanted to see, and it's green, it's crisp, it's
Yeah.
big, it's good, big stalk, so it's very, very healthy.
nice.
I have noticed more cabbage on Tonka now that you mentioned it,
Yeah.
but it's not enough
No.
to hold bass like
No.
the milfoil did.
No.
So it's not like good enough for like schools to live in it.
No.
But
It's good. So
well, that's good they're doing lobbying for that, because it really seems like there's 80 lake owners and maybe one fisherman at a
Yeah.
meeting, for that. But
years ago on Clearwater, just
he didn't have milfoil up on his lakes.
no,
He don't
on
care.
Clearwater, it was nothing. There was nothing discussed. The first act was how can we stop the milfoil. That was the first thing at every. They had meetings, I believe, once a
Yeah.
month or whatever. It was the number one thing they talked about. How can we get rid of the milfoil? It wasn't let's stock walleyes, let's do this, let's do
Yeah.
that. It was let's kill all the milfoil.
Do they have zebra mussels in Woman yet? They do? Okay.
Leech, all like
I think
that.
Leech has got 'em.
But woman still has that kind of chalkiness to it.
Yeah, not anymore.
Okay. Yeah, that's gone.
That's gone.
Gotcha. Straight smoke tube now.
So now you'll need 12 rods instead of 8, dude.
I feel like that's
No.
a lake where I need like 4.
See, there you go.
I like woman.
I like a woman a lot.
Yeah, I feel like they have 4 moods on them. Like, them fish have 4 moods. Well, we're only talking smallmouth when we're talking
Yeah.
woman, right? If we
Yeah.
needed to do mixed bag shit, then it'd be 8 rods.
Yeah.
It'd be more than that.
Yeah.
It'd be the antenna. Like Paul Roush used to call them guys that have 20 rods the antenna because they have them all over their boat.
That crappie fishing down south is wild. You see, they have crappies in Texas on Falcon?
Oh, it's unbelievable.
You got the fucking spider rigs
Well.
fucking running around?
Yeah, they don't do that there.
No, they live scope them now.
Yeah, right on. I mean, we have trees and stuff too, and we just go dip them basically.
Sure.
That, or if they're sunken brush and stuff, we'll
Brush
just get
piles.
over top of them.
Sure.
Those little, not road runners, but the
Roadrunner. Yeah, that's a little underspin.
Yeah.
We'll call it
it's
that.
a little underspin.
Yeah. Dude, I remember what I was going to ask, Mark.
Oh, yeah.
There's a guy who weighed an 8-pounder out of your boat on Minnetonka.
Not my boat.
Not out of your boat?
No, it's out of Shane.
Out of Shane's boat.
Shane and
You hear
Larry.
about that?
No.
I think I think Shane sold cars for him.
Yeah.
Right?
Larry Reed.
Oh, Larry
Larry
Reed.
Reed.
White Bear Dodge,
Yeah.
right?
He weighed an 8-pounder on Tonka out of Shane's boat
Yeah.
In a tournament or a fun
in a
fishing?
tournament, in a
Wednesday-
Wednesday nighter.
Yeah, Wednesday night.
What was it, 100 boats? You used to have 100 boats in these Wednesday
And
nighters.
you know, the funny part of it is, I told them, do not go to that spot because the Shelby was coming up.
How many times have you and Shane been in arguments about
A few.
that type of thing?
A few.
He couldn't help himself, could he?
No.
He just couldn't help himself.
Well, it's either him or Larry talked him into it.
8 pounds even
I thought it was, yeah.
on a magwort?
I guess I don't remember what it was.
That's a big fish for Tonka.
Yeah. Well, there was a 7-something weight last year in the Blackfish.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
true.
Well,
Between me and the fence post, I think the scale was weighing a little heavy. I think either
Oh,
way,
really?
it was almost 7.
Yeah, that's a big fish.
7-some pounder.
yeah,
You know?
that's huge.
So they're in there.
Yeah.
But like tournament weights have.
Dropped on Tonka, I think.
Well, I mean, like when you look back at the 80s, 90s, the
Oh.
weights weren't that good.
No,
like 80s, they weren't that good. And then you had like these heydays in the 90s with Pryor Lake. And I don't know about I don't know when Tonka's heyday was, but Pryor had like this heyday. But bags overall weren't as good in the 80s and 90s, I think, as they are now, generally, right? Or maybe not.
Well, I don't know.
Maybe they're
But,
worse now.
Yeah,
I mean, you
I'd
got
say Tonka was good for a long time,
Yep.
where it took at least a 4-pound average to win.
Sure. Yeah. And it still does, but you see it drop off.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
fast.
Yep.
Where before you see a lot of teams just coming in with big.
Well, you know,
weights.
because you remember 10 fish tournaments,
Sure.
and then
There was 10?
there was 10 fish tournaments.
I remember
was-
12 fish.
See, that was before my time. I remember the
12
10 fish
fish?
tournament. So now put 5 and 5 on it, and and then try calling all that crap. 8 was tough enough.
I liked 8 because it
Oh,
was
yeah.
less of a kicker factor.
That's
and I was
correct.
good at them deeper.
Yeah.
I learned the Doug Pete track, Nick
Yep.
Gross, Dean Nalezny
Yep.
way with
School.
them schooling fish. But yeah.
Yeah, 5 you can, 8 was tough to even call.
Do you prefer a bag size, or you didn't care 5 or 8, or did because they mixed that up?
Yeah, 8 was more than enough.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean that was plenty.
Did you prefer an 8 over a 5, or did you not care? Yeah.
Yeah,
I think any good
Yep.
good fishermen preferred 8 over
yeah,
5.
for sure.
Yeah, because you can throw a frog and catch 5 big ones. You can get on a
You
school
can get
and
3
catch-
big ones and
Yep.
2 little ones.
Yep.
And,
You can get on an 8 fish school bite and lock her up.
Yeah.
right. They don't do any 8 fish anymore.
No, 6. I think don't they do a 6? Somebody does a 6.
Yeah,
Most
I
of them are
thought so.
5.
Yep.
Denny's does 4, don't they, on the Wednesday
I believe
nighters
it,
now?
yeah.
I think
He's been like that a long time though, I think.
our league we
Only
only
4?
do. Yeah, we only do 3 in our
I thought
league.
they did. Because them Wednesday nighters, dude, used to be
Oh God, they used to be
Big
full.
time, yeah.
You guys fished
Dude, it's a-
Wednesday nighters, didn't
For
you?
sure.
That's what I thought.
everyone.
Yeah.
Every one of them boys did, and it was 100. Like it was. How much was entry on a Wednesday night?
Yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah, but you look
$50
at that
or something,
Yeah,
but
but
it
you
was
look
like-
at that cream of the crops on there: Raveling, Capra,
The
right
Wednesday
down the
nighters
line.
were about like freaking
Yeah.
Yeah.
bragging. Like there was no money in the Wednesday nighters. Everyone wanted to win one though.
Yep.
It was just
Yeah.
hard to win one.
Yep.
Yeah.
They were like that was like the Mega Bowl. But this has been fun. I think we're gonna probably wrap this up with. I've got one very important question for you guys. Very important. Do you believe in aliens, Mark?
UFOs. I believe in UFOs.
Which means you also,
Have
but not
to.
aliens.
I have to. Yeah.
Have to, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Somebody else out there.
It's like Bigfoot. Show me a body and I'll believe it.
So you don't believe there's alien. You think you don't believe there's other life out there.
Is this going to be edited out?
Nope. Unless you want it to be.
No, I believe there's something out there. Yes, I don't know if you would consider it aliens or UFO, but there's something somewhere, some living being. Let's say.
I don't see how there isn't.
Yeah, has to.
Oh,
Be.
yeah, I would believe there is. Yeah.
You look at the sky, all those stars. That's somebody's sun.
Yeah.
Each one of them. That's crazy.
Yep.
Well, and it goes beyond that, where you can't see, and there's still
That's
stuff.
right. Infinity.
Right. I think about how many bass circuits are galaxy wide. You know what I mean? Like we were just talking about worldwide bass. Like how many bass tournaments are I feel like this is happening at least 1,000 more times across the galaxy.
Yeah, good.
You will never know. I'll never prove it. Life's about more questions than answers, unless it's a magwort. But but that was my closing question because I'm always curious.
Yeah.
Fishing's a curious sport. Galaxy's ever expanding.
Yeah. No, I believe it.
But I hold true on
Yeah.
my Bigfoot though. You should have to show me a body before I believe that.
Do you
I'm not saying there's not a half man, half ape somewhere in the world. But as far as Bigfoot goes, I need to see a body.
That makes sense. I'm
There's
the
too
same
many
way with
trail
Bigfoot.
cameras and all that crap out there nowadays. People can get cougars and all this crap in the city. You know.
What
you
about
got-
Antarctica though?
Could be
How many trail cams are in Antarctica?
none.
Nobody knows what the fuck's
right.
there.
Yep, I hear you.
But I mean, do you think we're aliens?
Could be. You and I don't cut our hair, yeah.
Yeah, neither do I.
Amen. Yeah. Oh, you got the frost cooking. I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the signature mustache. They have Corvettes in other galaxies, I bet.
It's a sweet ride.
Yeah,
It is a sweet ride.
it is.
Um,
I take it to Texas, and that's my
cool.
fishing rig in Texas. I mean, I have a truck down there too.
Yep.
But when I go to a guide over in the Gulf, I throw my 8-foot rods in there. They fit perfect.
2 magwort rods, box of magworts.
Well, it's just
Go
about
meet
the
the
same.
guys.
You don't need much tackle.
Yep.
Throw everything in there and drive over there. It gets 30 miles to the gallon.
Are you serious?
Honest.
And it's still fast?
Oh, unbelievable.
What?
Honest.
Is a V8 in there?
Yeah, but it kicks down to 4 if you're not using it.
Oh, yep.
So honest, driving back and forth to Texas, well, just any place you get 30 miles a gallon.
Sure. The speed limits in South Dakota are really good. What's the fastest you've got that?
130. And it's supposed to go over 170, but there's so many cops in Texas,
No.
Yeah.
you just can't open it up.
Unless you're Jay Leno, like you really can't. Yeah. Wow.
And up here, I haven't even attempted it, so
Not a lot of places to do it here.
No.
Is
that's
that
a fun car, though. It just
sounds fun?
Yeah.
It looks fun.
Highway
It's
55
beautiful.
from Highway. No, I'm just kidding.
I got a couple back this way,
Alright,
back
that's-
40. Yeah. Yeah. Used to drag race. No, I'm back with the 4-H babes.
yeah. The problem is you kick it down and you're going 100
Now.
now, so.
It's easy to
And
speed in, I
If
bet.
you have anything up front on the dash or anything, it's in the back.
Oh, no.
I learned that fast.
Cool.
Your phone in
Sure.
the back. Yeah.
Are you a manual transmission guy, or you just, that's like, 'cause driving a stick to Texas sounds awful, but maybe it's,
Yeah, no, it's an automatic.
Yeah.
And it shifts faster than you could ever shift anyway. So
Cool.
Yeah, no, it's a computerized,
Yeah.
shifting and stuff.
Dang.
It's a fun car.
Yeah, I bet. Have you always kind of been into cars, or is this kind of like
Oh, I grew up in the muscle cars.
really?
Had GTOs and Dusters and Chevelles and all that stuff, and this was just kind of the icing on the cake.
Sure, absolutely. Well, cars aren't. I mean, no offense to the '80s, but it was about the worst
Yeah,
decade for cars, I think.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe the '90s were a close second,
Yeah.
but them muscle cars, like they don't make them like that no more.
it's unbelievable. We had so much fun with those things.
I bet.
Yeah,
That's
see,
all-
it was past. I still remember as a kid seeing all the muscle cars, and on Central Avenue where I lived, that was every Friday night. Every muscle people would come from all over the place, and it was cool. But when I grew up, it wasn't muscle cars. It really
Thunderbirds. It was
It
Thunderbirds.
was point A to point B, dude. That's what it was for us.
The Corvette's kind of one of the few vehicles that really kind of
Yeah.
kept that sexy look throughout its whole lifespan.
Yeah.
Have you always been a Corvette guy, or was that kind of
I've always wanted one,
Yeah.
and I think I bought this one 2 years ago, and just love it. It's it's the nicest car I think I've ever had.
Sure.
So,
Have you ever driven anything that's not red? What's up with the Raveling red? Like everything the Ravelings drive is red except Mason. He's got black and orange.
well, all my trucks are black.
Okay.
Yeah,
That goes good with red, right?
yeah. My boats are even changed into black.
Really?
Yeah,
Smart. Can be stealthy for a change.
there you go.
Yeah.
yeah.
I like stealth. People can't see it.
I mean, I respect the stealth.
Yeah.
It's the way to be.
Don't
Well-
wear bright shirts out in the boat when you're practicing. And
Not practicing. No.
I'd never wear this out fishing.
No. No. Well,
Yeah. Well, Dean, it's nice seeing you again.
It's nice seeing you, bud.
Yeah, it's been a long
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
I thought that'd be a nice surprise.
No, it was kind of a cool deal.
So that tournament is on YouTube, if you guys are wondering.
Yeah,
like
I've
Dean
got-
told me
yeah.
about it, and then
Yep.
Dave Sickinator actually put, I
Yeah.
think, a lot of those tournaments
Neat.
on YouTube. So you
yeah,
guys,
because you fish with Dave, and I actually fished with Dave, and I got to know Dave pretty good because he
Yeah.
turned pro, and I stayed as an amateur.
Sure.
Yeah. And I think you guys did really well in Green and Chisago.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
And-
amazing. If you look at that roster from the amateurs, Jim Severson was an amateur in
Jimmy.
2001.
oh my
Yeah.
gosh,
If you would go through that, you'd be shocked at the guys that actually took it to the next level. And
Crazy.
they're
Yeah.
doing her up now.
Yeah,
So,
great.
I stayed with Jimmy down on Hartwell. That dude is wild.
yeah.
That's all I'm gonna say about that.
Guy can fish a jig, though.
I mean,
Yeah,
that
fish
dude,
anything,
he can
yeah.
fit- yeah,
He's a good fisherman.
Yeah, he's a purebred. Give him a pack of Marlboros and a fucking thing of coffee, and he's good to go.
Yeah.
Yep.
Follow the weed line.
Yep. I don't even think that guy has a map chip. I think he's pure.
Yeah.
He's pure as Russian vodka.
Good fisherman.
Well, Mark, this has been a treat, and
Yeah.
like for all you listening, I really want you to pay attention when you hear this guy, because this is somebody who's really pioneered the sport of bass fishing, tournament bass fishing in Minnesota. You're somebody I've always looked up to. So this honestly is a dream come true, means the world. So thank you so much. And Dean, I appreciate all you've done for me as well. And I wouldn't be the fisherman I am without you. But thanks for making the trip. Thanks for tuning in, guys. This is the Bass Galaxy. Checking in, checking out.